Hello, dear viewers. Support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it. And also, make sure you comment your thoughts. Now let's start the video. Rivendell Deliana Private Quarters. The crown in recognition of the feud between the Faith of the Seven and that of one Deliana House of Tully. Thus decree that the fighting cease at once. To bring back the king's peace into the land, King Robert Baratheon. First of his name, King of the Andals, and first men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, and Protector of the Realm, orders that both forces stand down. In relation into maintaining this peace, the king decrees that the faith stop immediately the attacks of the lands of Rivendell. Also the disbandment of the Holy Army and the breaking of the Inquisitor's office, effective immediately. In return, the Lady Deliana Tully would not be extending her religion by force south of the Neck, and instead respect the wishes of the people in the choice of their faith. In recognition also of the prowess of the group Silver Order, the king fully recognizes their presence officially and thus charge them with the authority of the crown to protect the common folk and provide the king's justice throughout Westeros. The king also wishes the Lady Deliana to prepare a tourney the next 4 months in honor of the bringing back of the king's peace and the end of the chaos. Half the amount would be shouldered by the crown, while the remaining half in preparation will be shouldered by her house. Expect the presence of the royal family then. Signed, Robert Baratheon, King of Westeros. Deliana resists the urge to facepalm as she lays down the letter. The letter is both good news and bad for her. Good in the sense that this officially ends the war between Rivendell and the Faith. It would be terribly annoying for her and her lands if the Faith stops with the large battles that they had been opting to do and change to a guerrilla war. It would be a terrible inconvenience for her and the border patrols. She's not naive enough to believe also that the guards at the border would be fully able to stop the attacks. The homesteads near the borders would be under constant threat, and Deliana's Gryffindor pride would not allow that. On the other hand, it is bad news, thanks to the demand of the king of a tourney. Of course, seeing that it is Robert, she is not that surprised. In a way, she does owe him. The letter from the capital, despite declaring the end of the war, favors her side a lot. She must have really impressed Robert a lot, even though she met him only once. Of course, it might be also because the North supports her, and since Robert loves the Northerners, the king is edging on her side by nature. Still, this demand for a tourney is a prick in her side. There are a lot of things to do. Firstly, she needs to repair the damage, as little as it is, to her lands. She also needs to fill in the new lands that fell on her lap overnight after Tywin Lannister decimated the Holy Army from the Riverlands. Basically, Houses Hollick, Mooton, Goodbrook, Shawnee, Linchester, Smallwood all surrendered the authority of their lands to her. It's not her fault the damned lords of those lands opted to march proudly with the damned Inquisitor of the Faith. They are rather cooperative into surrendering their holdings when Deliana introduced them to the White Tree. A beautiful giant tree with leaves of silver standing at the courtyard of Rivendell. Of course, Deliana would not be Deliana without the rather added input from her. 3 dryads with white bark as skin. Beautiful as Sin herself tend to the tree. Of course, they are not the ones the captives fear. It is rather because the tree is moving, she has charmed it to hell and back to resemble the Whomping Willow back at Hogwarts. But only with bad attitude. They've got the first-hand experience of seeing the tree raise a giant branch and squashes one of their knights, flat on the courtyard. The sight of Dryads grabbing his remains and licking his blood causes more than one man to piss himself in fear. Long story short, they are scrambling over one another into signing the contracts and papers to surrendering their lands lest they be next. Of course, the overproud bastards didn't get the memo that they need to vacate their lands with their families and retainers. When explained to them, they all started protesting that needed another gruesome repetition of one of their number being squashed before they happily agreed. Now almost the entirety of the eastern block of Riverrun is firmly under her control, though not populated as much anymore. Now with so much lands on her pocket, and a lot of small folk of said lands running away from the heathens, she got land again with no people to work them. As a result, Deliana was forced to send the new Elder of the Green Men, Marcus, to Essos, like she did with Victor, though, with many a reservation. Marcus can be loyal to a fault, but the man was rather overzealous in proving her loyalty, which resulted to more or less more headaches for her. Hopefully he got the memo about the limits she placed. Either way, she has a lot of construction projects to be built on the next few months, The salt farms at Sea Dragon Point needs to be started, and the new outer territories of Rivendell need to be ceded by both people and infrastructure. There is also the issue of the tourney notwithstanding. While a great opportunity to throw off some of her rather new inventions currently stored away, its timing is horribly bad. She's also got the feeling that she would be needing the power of the Sorcerer's Stone before all is said and done. She cannot also, this time, pawn off everything to Emilia. The new Castellan of Rivendell is good, but she's not as good as Victor on multitasking. No, she needs someone to trust on all these projects of hers without compromising the truth about magic. She'll need to evaluate the Green Men later for any potential candidates. Back at the present, though, the Fat King stops the war. The ethereal form of Sir Arthur Dane says from where he is standing at the side. Yes, in a way, she answers the knight whom she cannot blame for the biting tone that he is using. The king demands that we have a tourney in honor of the victory. A tourney? That would take a lot of work, my lady. Tell me about it, Deliana snorts before sighing as she focuses her full attention to the knight. We need to talk, Sir Arthur. About what exactly, mistress? The knight replies. About your decision, Deliana replies, with a glint of green fire in her eyes. This is highly unusual. In this world of yours, there is no soul except that of that damnable green seer of the north who chooses this kind of fate. I am a knight of the Kingsguard, mistress. It is my duty to protect the royal family to death, and beyond if it is by my choice, the knight replies, as stern as they first had this conversation before. You will find no peace, no rest, Deliana simply says, in mourning. In this land you will be bound until the last remnant of stone and tree rots and the seas will swallow the land. You will wander alone, a soul bereft, unable to pass into the afterlife. This is my choice, mistress. As long as the family I swore to protect remains, I will have the courage and will to go on, the Sword of the Morning again repeats. A Kingsguard has no life, no family, only his duty. As long as his duty remains, he must go on, no matter the consequences. Are you sure about that? I am. Deliana sighs, already feeling sorry for the knight. She had never met anyone so bullheaded into sticking away from death except Voldemort. The Dark Lord's reason, however, was not honorable like Sir Arthur Dane's, but rather because he's afraid of death and of the unknown. Very well. Then, as long as this life of mine continues, Sir Arthur, you will always have food on my table and wine in my cup. You will answer the call of the horn and serve as the Sword of the Dawn when called upon, and I will continue to serve you, mistress, and you will have my sword as long as the Princess Rhaenys has a place in your heart and home. She will, Deliana simply replies, forming the pact completely. Feeling a bit mischievous, she smirks at the bowing ethereal knight. You won't be mad if I fuck her once she grows up to the beauty that she will be, will you? She asks. The sound of a sword being drawn is the only answer she gets. Rivendell guest quarters. Tywin Lannister inhales the crisp, clean air flowing from the open archway of his room. He would be lying if he says that he is not envious of the castle of the Deliana, Tully. It does not have the ornate riches that adorn its walls and pillars like Casterly Rock does, but what it has is a simplistic beauty made up of a combination of vines, plants, carvings, paintings, rugs, and the occasional ornament made of silver and gold. It seems that the Lady Deliana prefers the color silver more than gold. Also, the fact that she built all this on her own effort. Rivendell perches as tall as the rock itself. Only thing is, the castle is not inherited like the Lannisters did with the Casterlys, but rather brand new. In a way, he does admire the girl, ambitious, strong-willed with a great intellect, mature beyond her years, and now able to achieve something great, no, many great feats, and she isn't even yet in her majority. Normally, Tywin would be willing to put tooth and nail in the effort of making sure that his son Jaime be able to win her hand in marriage even if he has to crawl and beg for it. Alas, it is too late. With her riches, exploits, and the lands under her care, it would be impossible to broker a marriage contract with her. The only thing he can suggest would be a royal marriage, which is complicated to say the least. The word from his spies about the crown prince is disturbing, and Tywin gets the feeling that Joffrey would end up with a carved heart if the two join in union. Tommen is too soft and timid, which would not end up well with the Lady of Rivendell. He has to entrust the friendship of Rivendell with the relationship that Marcella has with its lady. Thankfully, the two are rather joined at the hip as far as the letters he received from his granddaughter tell. "You look like a cat who got its canary brother." The voice of his younger sibling makes Tywin turn from the spectacular view of his room balcony to smirk at his younger sibling. "Take a look at these, Kevin," he simply says, pointing to his younger brother, the 3 letters that lie opened on his table. Wordlessly, his brother picks them up, his eyes ghosting over the contents. "Tywin, this is all agreements for the expansion of the trade and market center at Lannisport of Rivendell merchants, the deeds to the now defunct houses of House Rain and Tarbeck, and the permission for another trading post to be placed at the base of Casterly Rock." Tywin continues outlining all the contents of the letter. "Tywin, this is all surprising," his brother says hesitantly. "Why are you giving so much leeway to this girl in the Westerlands?" Tywin simply says nothing as he takes a seat on one of the comfortable chairs beside a table. With a wave of his hand, Kevin joins him. Filling his wine glass with butterbeer, which Tywin likes thanks to its non-drunk properties, he sighs. "Tell me, Kevin, do you know how many bags of raw gold did we mine out of the rock last year?" he asks. A raised eyebrow is his only answer. "I thought you personally took responsibility of the accounts of the gold mines, Tywin, since the past 2 years." "Just humor me, brother," Tywin answers with another wave of his hand. "I don't know, 1,000? 3,000? Kevin replies, accepting the offered glass of butterbeer from Tywin. The old lion smiles wryly at him. "Not even close, Kevin. The answer is none." He is totally not happy by the un-Lannister-like response of his brother as he spits out the butterbeer he is drinking in surprise. His response is to be expected, though. Tywin's reaction was worse via throwing the lead miner off the window of his solar when he first received the news. "What do you mean, none?" Kevin demands, still in disbelief. "Exactly as I said it, brother," Tywin sighs. "Thousands of years, with hundreds of Lannister generations, mining the rock, and now it is coming to an end. The rock has nothing more to give, and we need to find a venue to keep our way of life. We have great reserves still, so it'll be years before the entire house fully feel the effects, but we will feel it. I have been making investments and looking for alternative ways for us to gain gold these past 2 years." "Is this why you aided the Lady Deliana?" Kevin asks. "Partly." Tywin smirks again at his cup. "This former bastard is one of the greatest rising ladies of our current age. If this continues as she is right now, in a couple of years, she would probably be as rich as us, especially with the Iron Banks supporting her. That's why I am lobbying as much trading posts as I can get from her. The taxes of these places would aid the Westerlands greatly in our current upcoming financial crisis." "Isn't it too risky to trust her a lot?" asks Kevin. "If she decides to turn on us?" "I know. That's why I came to her aid here. Unfortunately, we cannot coerce her into a marriage contract. Nothing less than a royal marriage will suffice. I'm afraid offering Tyrion as a husband would be a great insult. And short of Jaime renouncing the Kingsguard, the only option that we have is through a royal marriage. Unfortunately, I don't think Tommen would be able to handle her." "I fully agree," Kevin shudders, remembering the little pudgy boy who looks ready to be blown like a leaf in the wind. "Thank the gods we have Marcella close to her. If only she is born a boy, it would be the perfect match." Tywin simply hums, taking another drink. Their discussion, however, lapsing into companionable silence. None of them notices a pair of Lannister green eyes listening to their every word through the hidden corridors at the wall, digesting the last words exchanged between the two. "Bravos, House of Black and White. The mistress wants us to train people," the head of their order asks the kneeling figure in white. "Yes," the man replies. "The messenger of the many-faced god requires a large amount of people that would be able to form a network throughout the entirety of Westeros that would be able to serve as her eyes and ears. She understands that the House of Black and White does not have the numbers for it and respects our decision that the temple here at Brevivos not be compromised." "This is concerning." The head of the Faceless Men grumbles in frustration. So many centuries, and finally a direct contact from the many-faced god and his order is being found wanting in their service. The Mistress of Death has to personally send them a solution for their current issue herself, which is downright shameful for them. "Do whatever the lady needs, and any concern she has, you bring to me. We have been piss-poor service to her so far. The least we can do is for her orders to be fulfilled. Rivendell, Main Hall, When Deliana arrives at the main hall, three people instantly she recognizes, first and foremost, is her brother, Edmure. To say the least, the ruler of Rivendell is completely taken off guard by the appearance of her half-brother in this world. Before Edmure looks nothing more than a lout that obviously no lord would ever respect. Right now it seems, however, that her brother does a complete 180. His hair has been grown long down to his shoulders, and the scraggly beard that he had been supporting before to look manly had been shaved clean. His face looks healthy and brimming with life. The laziness that had been oozing in almost every pore of his skin before are missing and now replaced with vitality and a sense of purpose. Dressed in the traditional fishmail armor of Riverrun, he looks healthier and more in air rather than the pathetic thing sitting on the chair of Riverrun before. Beside him is an older man about his 50s dressed as a knight. Instead of the silver trout in his surcoat, though, his is colored black. Deliana does not have the privilege on meeting him yet, though. She knows that it is her uncle, the renowned Blackfish of Riverrun, the more militant and capable of the two Tully brothers. Personally, she does not yet know of the man other than his reputation. It is widely known, however, that he cares for his family, which unfortunately means that his view to bastards might be a bit skewed, especially thanks to the lack of love between him and Hoster. What makes Deliana stop in his tracks, though, is the third person in the room. The last time Deliana had seen her father, he was looking sick and ready to die any second. There was also the tiredness in his eyes that looked as if he had finally given up on the world and ready to cross the threshold. The Hoster Tully that is facing her looks anything but sick. The once white graying hair atop his head is gone and instead replaced by a pale hair color of brown and straw with streaks of darkish red. The once wrinkled, sickly face is also changed. The wrinkles are still there, but instead of the 70s to 80s look it sported when she left Riverrun, the face now is that of his early 60s. The wrinkle lines are still there, but now contains a grace of wisdom in them. He is also standing straight, dressed in a fine tunic of green with an outer garb of wine red. A cape of gray is at his back with the embroidered silver fish of Tully at it. The ancestral sword of House Tully is also at his waist, and the once unkept beard are trimmed nicely. All in all, he looks like a man on his prime. I based this new Hoster Tully's looks to Théoden of Rohan at LOTR, the Two Towers movie. Daughter, he inclines his head to her, catching Deliana off guard. Never in her entire career as Deliana Tully in this world has her father acknowledged her with anything more than a curt nod. Not even during the harvest feast long ago. Father, what her words are unfortunately cut off when Edmure Tully sweeps her into his arms with a bone-crushing hug. Sister, you have grown so beautiful. The young man pipes cheerfully, nearly breaking Deliana's ribs as he dances around like a fool. I am so glad to see you safe. I have many things to tell you. I am so sorry for being an idiot and not recognizing the value you had on our family. I am so... Enough! The Blackfish interjects, poking the ribs of Edmure with the blunt end of the sheath of his sword. Let go of your sister before you suffocate her, you dumb fool, he hisses. All right, sorry, got a little carried away there. The heir of Riverrun chuckles, putting a very confused Deliana down, who then receives an acknowledged nod from her uncle. Niece, you might not know me, but I am Brynden Tully. I apologize for meeting you only today. I have done the best I could, rallying the remaining levies of Riverrun to come to your aid. I am truly sorry that I arrived too late. He must have noticed the confusion in her eyes as she keeps on staring at Edmure, for he chuckles. Your father had been educating the fool about the importance of family ever since he got well. Quite a miracle from the gods, either by my gods or yours. No one knows, he explains. He got well. Deliana blinks still. Unable to compare the rather vibrant Edmure Tully, literally oozing with vibrant energy, and dare she say it, likability. Yes, caught me by surprise too. One thing he's a moment away from dying of old age, and the next he's 10 years younger looking, answers Brynden, looking at Hoster with respect. Nearly fell off my horse when he apologized for ridiculing me and naming me Black Sheep of the Valley for years. He... apologized? Deliana tries and fails to wrangle the truth as he stares confused at Hoster Tully. The Hoster Deliana knew was overproud and would rather saw his arm than apologize. Yes, and he trained of all things with the sword. His skills, though, are shit, and both he and I are working on it. The Blackfish laughs, slapping the back of Hoster in a brotherly way. Deliana once more blinks, as she stares at the healthy man who is her father. There is no way, just no way. With the next blink of her eyes, she sent a probe directly at the brain of the man to check. Color her surprised when her probe immediately met a brick wall of occlumency defending it. Before she can panic and cast an AK at her father, a counter probe strikes back inside her brain, nearly making her cross-eyed at the strength of it. Hello, Deliana Tully, or might I say Harry Potter. I am James Potter, inside this body, or you might call me Father, if you wish. Is it truly a surprise, then, that Deliana lost consciousness after that? Somewhere in Winterfell, Catelyn Tully tosses and turns in her bed before waking up with a gasp. Sweat beads her forehead and her heart is pounding. She puts a hand in her face. For some reason, she has a horrible nightmare of her father being replaced by someone else, and her family fully accepting bastards of all kinds. With a tired sigh, she returns back to her bed alone since Ned is off praying to his damn tree gods again. What a horrible nightmare it is. Assos volante. What do you mean you're buying all of them? Asks a completely confused and surprised Mario Morag to the Westerosi, who is preening like a peacock. Exactly as I said it, good master. The one who introduces himself as Marcus with many a flourishing wave. My goddess needs people, and I am here to procure the ones who will suit her needs. Oh, all right. Mario sweat drops at the flamboyant Westerosi as he signs the contract of almost 5,000 slaves. He never has a sale this big. Mario's stock of slaves is all second-generation slaves, meaning that they are born into slavery. For some reason, this Westerosi wants second-generation people. Most of his slaves tend to have a skill or craft of their own, though majority is unfortunately farmers and pickers. He's not usually one to sell this number of magnitude, but the extra 10,000 gold pieces added to the 150,000 is too much to resist. Also, good master, if you can refer me to other slave masters like your good self that also sells the same quality and properties of slaves like yours, I would be extremely happy to add another 10,000 as a sign of goodwill and good business. Yep, Mario is right about his assessment of this Westerosi. He is barking mad and Mario loves it. Sea Dragon. The horse of Ned Stark whinnies as it pauses from its canter. The Warden of the North himself, but mentally feel his jaw drop as he sees the bustling groups of people below. It has been barely 2 weeks since the War of the Faith ended. Formally, no one wins, according to the Crown. It is pathetically obvious, however, to the dumbest lord that Deliana Tully won. The Faith literally got a thrashing of a lifetime during the battle with nothing to show for it except 6 dead High Septons and thousands of men dead. Eddard shudders as he remembers the young girl back at Pike. He, of course, acknowledged her prowess back then, especially after she saved their hides from the Ironborn. It was one thing, however, to fight outnumbered Ironborn and battle. The Battle of the Gods, many of the lords and common folk call it when the might of Rivendell faced off against the strength of the entire Crownlands, and part of the Reach, heavily outnumbered and facing Randall Tarly himself, Deliana Tully won the day by leading the charge herself. Of course, later, the reinforcements of House Bolton and the houses sworn to Dragonstone under Stannis came to her aid, but the point remained that she led her men to battle and won. Not only that, she also had enough connections to some of the highest people in the land. Connections. Mind you, that was deep enough that they came riding to her aid. Ned had no idea how Tywin Bloody Lannister, of all things, came riding personally from the Westerlands with his cavalry supported by a healthy Hoster Tully with his entire family and smashing to bits the entire holy army assembled from the levies of the Riverlands. That's not mentioning also the small fact that she called on the old gods and the bloody gods answered, which resulted to 12,000 dead men and an entire new area called the Forest of Death down south. Many of the more devoted lords of the north had been rather smug to the minority that believed in the Seven till now. Back at present, though, for the life of him, Eddard wonders if the Tully of Rivendell even sleeps as he looks down below the once empty land of Sea Dragon Point. Whereas the place is once barren wasteland filled with nothing but snow, ice, dirt, mud, and barren rock. Now it is the complete opposite. Ships of every kind that sailed on the Canal of the Old Gods are now docked on the makeshift harbor. There are the massive ships of Bravos, the sleek, elongated ships of Pentos, and the Harpy of the Three Cities. Thousands upon thousands of people are also present, working as Rivendell longships come and go, carrying large amounts of marble of all things, and obsidian. A wooden palisade is surrounding the working area, almost 3 kilometers long, as the indentured servants of the free cities work. What in the name of the old gods is she building? Eddard Stark wonders to himself as he sits there confused atop his horse with his guards. Rivendell, Office of the Castellan. The Castellan of Rivendell, suffices it to say, might also be called the Hand of the King, but only in a lesser degree to the Lady of Rivendell. Currently, said office is occupied by 2 people, one the Lady of Rivendell herself and its current Castellan, Amelia. For Diliana, she likes this position lying on the pale, soft legs of her former personal guard. Her guard has opted to wear shorts, which Diliana has been introducing to the guilds for daily use today in her personal quarters, giving Diliana a free-for-all smell of the young woman. Of course, she happily disregarded the thunderous blush that occurs at Amelia's face when she made her long legs her bed pillows. Currently, she is taking a small break, resting as she listens to Amelia sort out the 1,001 details that would be needed for the projects of Rivendell, but basically leaning currently on the development of Sea Dragon Point and the preparation to the tourney. Seawater? You ordered barrels of seawater? Amelia blinks confused at the contents of the paper she is currently holding. It contains the seal of Rivendell to the head craftsman at Sea Dragon Point. The command is to simply clear a dozen fields and fill them with cement, blocking them at the sides and pouring seawater at them. Yep, Diliana answers, elongating the P of the word. This would be the next source of income for Rivendell, one that would be ingenious. Other than the Delianite mines, of course, that would soon be sprouting up north at Sea Dragon Point. Once I visit there, my lady, please explain this to me in words that I might understand, for I don't get half the things that goes on inside that brain of yours. Amelia finally sighs, exasperated, making Diliana smile inward with glee. At least her daily harassment of Amelia has finally knocked some sense to her friend into not becoming like the other green men who have a penchant of kissing the ground she walks on. Oh, all right, I'll tell you, Amelia, she sighs dramatically, making sure to slap soft underparts of Amelia's outer thigh, earning her a squawk and a glare from the young woman. Other than gold, silver, spices, and steel, salt is the next best thing when it comes to commodity, as far as I observed. This backwater of a land, unfortunately, does not yet know its value, and thus the houses at the shoreline that does get it from sea rocks at their domains have no idea of the gold mine that it is. Salt is extremely useful, dearest Amelia, in preserving food. It is ranked up there with spices and ice. It is also a chef's demand. Once I put some samples of my brilliance in culinary arts later, most monarchs and nobles find it unacceptable after all to be rather bland. Spices are a hit, that's why before UT demanded they get all. Thus, once I'm done, Amelia, and this entire backwater of a continent knows of it, it would be of great demand and precious that its weight would be that of gold. Diliana finishes dramatically. At the blank stare she gets in return, Diliana grimaces as she sits up facing a confused-looking Amelia. Too much? She asks, earning her a small nod before indicating at her legs again to make her lie down with a wordless glare that literally shouts, "Explain." She simply mentally groans at that. She really misses Victor, who does not ask questions. Diliana simply looks at the bright side. At least her leg pillow is awesome. Southeast of Rivendell, haunted forest, the forest of death. You're a potter, all right. Only a potter would dare to stay in a place clouded by the souls of so many dead people recently killed. The voice of Halster, aka James, sounds out, making Diliana look up from the root she is sitting. You are either very brave or very stupid, father, for approaching me, especially with you being so unknown to my current companions. True to her word, the dozens upon dozens of tridents, dryads and hamdrads, and even a couple of ents surrounding the area emerge almost from every rock and stone, hissing and growling at the red tunic-clad figure. Please, son, or should I say, daughter. The old man smirks, fingering the pommel of the sword at his belt. I've wandered the haunted forest with my only companions, a grim and a fully adult werewolf. I've reined both of them against the creatures of the dark that call that forest home. The last things that I would need to be afraid of are moving trees. His words are greeted with many hisses from the denizens of the dark forest, though he remained unflinching as he stares at one of the handriads. The ritual of Hagia. Impressive, druid magic, I reckon. You must have needed a lot of power to summon a forest this stretch. And big blood magic, soul magic, Deliana corrects, waving her hand for the denizens of the forest to stand down before patting the space beside her. Took me almost 100 ghosts, but it gets the job done. Yes, 12,000 dead men and another 200 more litters waters this ground with their blood. I never thought you would have it in you. You are a lot like your grandfather, you know. Deliana raises an eyebrow at that. Really? Oh yes, Hoster replies with a chuckle as she leans on the giant tree root that Deliana is also resting. He participated in the war against Grindelwald in the Second World War. Fierce, courageous like the very banners that adorn House Gryffindor. He proudly displayed the painting of him and Longbottom hurling the roof of a giant barn at a flying German Zeppelin. Quite a sight, mind you, for a painting, and definitely not one to be seen by children. I believe that part of the recklessness of my youth was influenced by that overlarge painting at Potter Manor before old Voldy destroyed it. For the record, he got the justice he deserved, Father, Deliana replies. Yes, he did. Death was quite proud of shouting to the other perpetuals about that, Hoster grins. Many a soul was given gratification when you've thrown to hell the coward. I'm glad. The two of them descends into silence only with the sound of the other magical denizens of the haunted forest going around their business. Deliana does not fail to see Hoster eyeing the shapely bum of a Hamdrad through her dress made of leaves. She mentally sighs at that. Listen, Father, I think it's time for the two of us to address the elephant on the room. She pauses as the old man makes a waving motion for her to go on. Sir, for all my years of life, I have lived without you. Don't take this the wrong way. All my life back then, all I wanted was for you and Mom to be back. But you're dead. Simple as that. I loved you, even though I didn't know you. Many of your former friends and colleagues told me enough stories about your bravery and character. Also, I've seen and heard your last moments when a Dementor got near me, she explains. A sad look now fills Holster's eyes as he places a hand on Deliana's shoulder. I am truly sorry for not being there for you when you're growing up. It's not your fault, Father. You protected me, and you did what was right in a shitty confrontation. Not even Dumbledore could have stopped the Dark Wanker back then. The fact remains, though, Father, that I grew up without you, around, and don't know how to deal with me now that I'm here. Finishes Hoster, making Deliana blink. How did you know? A wry grin simply appears on Hoster's face. I have gotten into terms with it at the afterlife when I agreed with Death's favor to be here for you. You have grown up without me, daughter, and you have done many great things with your life, half of which I never even expected. Though I am kinda disappointed that you didn't contribute Potters to the next generation. A red blush appears at Deliana's cheeks at that. Hunting Dark Lords is a dangerous occupation. Dad? I know, I understand. I'm just messing with you, Hoster replies with a knowing smirk, making Deliana scowl at him though. The two of them burst into laughter, then for a few minutes before descending into silence. You are a grown person, Harry, or Delia, as you are known now. You have the right to make decisions. I will not strong-arm you into mine. My presence here in this world is for you to have family and people you can fully trust that will not backstab you. Death told me enough about this world. Trust here is apparently in short supply. You have loyal people here, but family will always be the first and foremost that will be there for you. Deliana finally sighs as she stands up and wraps Hoster in a hug, which the older man happily reciprocates. Despite the fierce Orton Dark Lord catcher that make up the majority of her, a part of Deliana would always be the little boy craving for her parents. When she first arrived here, some little portion of her soul wished that her father would be a father to her. Alas, she was born a bastard and a bane of society. Now she got both. The father from her past world and her father in this world. Mom won't be here, will she? Deliana asks, still feeling the warmth of her father as they release each other from the embrace. A sad smile simply appears at Hoster's face. No, she won't be. Death is already bending the rules as it is. He pats the top of her head. I might not be as brilliant as you, my dear daughter, but I will try my best to help you in this world. You know my deeds here, Father, asks Deliana. Yes, of course, turning your dirt of a home into one that can almost be called fairyland with gold and power raining all over. Hoster smiles brightly before frowning. I am quite worried about you, though. You are taking a lot of risks, and you are burning yourself out. I understand your desire to make your territory prosper your daughter. But you need to watch over your health. Where do you even get the time micromanaging all this together? Deliana simply smiles at her newfound father before pulling out the necklace, being hidden at the cleavage of her neckline. Oh, Holster simply says at the small version of a time turner. That's cheating. No wonder when I asked around at Rivendell, they say you are in a meeting with your Castellan currently. I know, right? Deliana grins brightly. I am a daughter of a marauder, after all. In the dark glooms of the Forest of Death, the sound of father and daughter's laughter can be heard by no one but themselves. Former lands of Goodbrook, now outer territories of Rivendell. Draco overlooks the former lands of Goodbrook as thousands upon thousands of craftsmen from Essos swarms the entire land, hauling marble, wood, silver, and stone in rather large amounts. With the lands of the Root, Derry, and Woad declared parts of Inner Rivendell, the rest of the new houses that fell under his goddess's hands are now outer territories of Rivendell. Longships carrying hundreds upon hundreds of new citizens are arriving in droves to settle the new outer territory lands of Rivendell. With the influx of new slaves that will now call Rivendell home, it had come to his goddess's attention that the workload of managing everything would be a little bit much for the Castellan of Rivendell alone to handle. Thus the position of Watcher, which was given to Draco due to his exploits before and after the War of Faith. While the Castellan of Rivendell takes care of the important facets and logistics that keeps Rivendell running along with its finances and projects, the position of Watcher means keeping tabs and taking care of the inner and outer territories of Rivendell. While the Watcher would answer to the Castellan, he has independence on almost everything outside Rivendell Castle. For Draco, however, he cared not for the title or the high position it holds. For him, it's just another job that his goddess requires from him, and Draco would not find himself wanting. After handing his position as commander of the Blackguard to Pete, he once more dove into his position of managing the outer territories into patterns and places that would make his goddess proud. Amelia had already handed to him the rough outlining of her plans, homesteads, forts, farms, trade routes, and places. All he had to do was make sure they were all up and running as the Castellan planned it. It still, however, required a lot of managing expertise at his side. As to why he is personally here at the former lands of Goldbrook, suffice it to say that according to the Lady Castellan, this part of Rivendell territory would be the place where the tourney of the king would be held and would also be the place of the largest city of Rivendell. Thus Draco would be calling this his place of office in the long-term future. If not for the rather narrow-minded focus provided by Unsullied training, Draco might have questioned where his managerial skills came from. Rivendell Gardens. Grandfather. Despite his rather sullen mood, Tywin lets one of the rare smiles of his appears at his mouth as the now tall figure of Marcella slams into him. You've grown, granddaughter. The Lord of Casterly Rock comments as Marcella lets go of him. Grown, in fact, would be an understatement. When he last saw the girl, she was barely a small child. Now she looks like a young woman and tall. It actually reminds him of the sight of a younger Joanna. There is a brightness and innocence also in her that Tywin noticed before lacked. I see your fostering is going well, he comments, patting the stone chair at his side. For the life of him, Tywin has no idea how a stone slab could feel comfortable. Everything in Rivendell seems designed to give every bit of comfort. It is grandfather, I am happy here, his granddaughter replies brightly, and I learned a lot from Lady Deliana and Lady Amelia. I can see that. Tywin nods simply before accepting the tray of cooled iced tea as the servants at Rivendell call it. Unfortunately, it is not for sale yet, according to the Castellan. I hope you have not neglected your lessons, granddaughter. Of course not, grandfather, though I've learned a lot other than the usual lessons that the dull septas teach back at King's Landing. That is good, Tywin replies. Personally, he agrees with her. The Septas teach the basic pump out as much babies as you can mentality to every noble girl out there. That is why he personally trained and taught Cersei and Jaime during their younger years. Of course, his effort is dully wasted seeing them now waste their talents. Time for him to get to the point, though. I might say that some of the things you've learned here are rather detrimental to your health, he comments, earning him a confused look from the princess. How so, grandfather? I've heard from the servants that you joined the army of Rivendell in incognito, no less, with no one else but your handmaiden. At your side, Tywin says, putting a bit of steel in his voice. He doesn't fail the involuntary flinch from his granddaughter. Grandfather, she begins to say, but Tywin cuts her off with a raised hand as he takes a deep breath. Personally, he is both astounded by the stupidity, foolishness, but bravery also of her action. She still needs to know her role as a princess, though, and it is high time she gets a personal lesson from him. Myrcella Baratheon, listen to me and listen well. He begins the chastisement to the daughter of the royal family. Personal guest, quarters of Rivendell, Rhaenys Targaryen would be lying to herself if she does not admit that she's afraid. There is good reason, too, for the man who ordered her to be murdered is only a few floors away. Of course, the realistic part of her knows that she is being silly. The Rhaenys Targaryen that got killed before would be on her teens by now. In the minds of all at Westeros, she would be dead already. Here at Rivendell, most minus Deliana and the Green Men knows her simply as Ray, the friend and handmaiden of Myrcella. The pragmatic part of her that learned under the lessons of Deliana and the teachers at her schools knows that she is perfectly safe. The part of her that died a million horrible deaths, however, tells her otherwise. Thus she stays here as far away as possible from the monster. Deliana had allowed it, though she still needs to help Emilia with the paperwork that the Castellan is swamped with. As she sits here alone, eyes unreading the book, she is holding with the silent specter of Arthur Dayne guarding her. Ray slowly comes to the realization that the best friend she cares about is the same blood as the monster that condemned her to die. She should hate Myrcella. The blood that courses through Tywin is the same as the one as that of the princess. By blood and right Myrcella, the girl that is her best friend, is her enemy. Her mother, brother, and father would ride at the grave knowing the bond that she shares with the Golden Princess. Rhaenys doesn't understand why she discards all those thoughts as Myrcella enters the room. Eyes puffy and crying. All she cares about is hugging her and letting her know that her Riri is holding her. 3 months later, after Myrella's scolding of Tywin, the Godswood overlooking the city of Osgiliath, capital of Outer Rivendell territories and seat of Draco, the Black Watcher of Rivendell. When Deliana plans something, she never aims for anything low, does she? Rhaenys can't help but comment to herself as she watches atop her horse the now bustling large city of Osgiliath, the citadel of the stars. It is indeed a sight to behold. Below the tall hill of the Godswood stands the White City, the pride and joy of the outer territories. White walls that gleam when greeting the morning sun. Large towers and tall houses can be found inside said protections that accommodate dozens of families each, made from tons upon tons of marble ordered from House Royce, much to the displeasure of the other Vale lords of House Royce. Continuing flow of gold. The culture of Osgiliath deviates away from that of the rest of Westeros, and even that of Rivendell. Instead of a single house, family design, these accommodations are like hives housing families and its different branches. 4 things, however, makes Osgiliath unique out of anything else in the known world. 1 is its center, a large giant circular amphitheater designed specifically to accommodate the demand of tourneys or any kind of sports. It can house almost 100,000 observers and is even rumored to be able to accommodate water for makeshift naval engagements. 2nd is the people themselves. It is widely known that the creation of Osgiliath is first and foremost influenced by the victory of Rivendell against the Faith of the Seven and paving the road for the permanent stay of the religion of the old gods down south. Surprisingly, other than the Isle of Faces, Osgiliath probably became the center of the religion of the old gods of the south. Weirwood trees that all of its citizens have the same faith, with only a paltry few being not. You can see the distinction immediately of the believers and those who are not. The believers are taller, have longer hair spun of golden and brown color, and seem to have a sense of calm and peace that their counterparts do not have. They are also a lot wiser, able to grasp faster the things taught at the schools provided by Deliana and more keen, able to use their minds greatly in doing innovative things. Osgiliath also has the highest rate currently of contributing men and women to join the Black Guard. Said men and women, 9 out of 10 rises through the ranks to become officers. Third is the river, or rather the large lake. It is not natural, but man-made. Deviated from the small river that runs through south once, it now fills the rather large that fills the expanse of the center of the city. It is so large, in fact, that a harbor for longships is placed at the middle. Fourth is the giant dome that gives Osgiliath its name. Almost as big as a castle, it stretches from one end to the other at the very center of the city beside the river. Dozens upon dozens of gardens surround it, and each one has a heart tree of its own joining the grass and flowers. The dome is rather simple in design, but what makes it unique is its architecture. The entire structure is almost made up of interlocking glass panes that cost literally lifetimes of fortune. Specialized structures are added at its creation, making moving coverings able to close and open to provide sunlight or moonlight inside the dome depending on the occasion. If one would enter the Dome of Osgiliath, though, it is a different manner. While the dome houses the office of the Watcher of the Outer Territories of Rivendell, it is basically, however, one big giant library that rivals even the Citadel. Unlike the home of the Maesters, though, the dome contains knowledge, not only found in Westeros, but also from Essos of many things, like science, geography, botany, husbandry, tactics, smithing, and 1,000 others. There are rumors of the librarians that take care of the dome that the Lady Deliana personally supplied the books here. Of course, no one really believed them. The trait of the dome, however, that gives Osgiliath its name is its ceiling. It is said to be a blessing of the gods, a complete reflection of the sky, at night showing the stars of the heavens. That is where the city gets its name. Osgiliath, the Citadel of the Stars. Now here Rhaenys is watching the bustling new city. Suffice it to say that Rhaenys is getting bored, sitting around at Rivendell doing nothing. Myrcella, thanks to her station as a princess of the realm, is assigned to help Emilia deal with the rain of paper falling at the Castellan's desk. Deliana, of course, barely has time to eat and sleep. Apparently the construction of Sea Dragon Point, the finishing touches of Osgiliath, and the logistics involved in settling in the new almost 100,000 population of the Outer Territories of Rivendell is taking a large chunk out of her time. It is a miracle that her family of Tullys managed to reconcile themselves with her. Rhaenys is glad for that. When they left back to Riverrun in extremely good terms, with many a promise of visiting always, which they fulfilled by visiting at least once a week, Hoster especially. The overwhelming support from the Tullys is a great boon as it smooths over ruffled feathers of many angry river lords still sour from their defeat during the War of the Faith. While the business of both Deliana and Myrcella is understandable, this unfortunately leaves Rhaenys the problem of being alone. Deliana is apparently no fool and recognizes the fact that someone with a very big might recognize Rhaenys for who she is. Apparently the Dame of Rivendell is being overly protective, worrying about magic users, warlocks, or sorcerers, of all things to know her identity. After everything that she has experienced, Rhaenys is willing to trust Deliana in this. She has seen enough movies from Deliana's Penjeeve about royalty. Mostly princesses being used in various forms of sorceries. She has no desire to be subjected to that. Thank you very much. As a result, she is kept out of the public eye with at least 3 death dealers to keep her company. Rhaenys does not begrudge Deliana of that. She knows that the Lady of Rivendell cares for her and Myrcella both. This way, at least, she can lessen the stress of her mind for worrying about her. Thus she is here watching the bustling city, having the best view around, while at the same time having the secrecy that her person needs. Word apparently of the upcoming Great Tourney spreads like wildfire all over Westeros, and even beyond. People are buzzing all over like bees attracted to honey. The makeshift harbor at the former lands of House Mooten, which is built extremely large, and has a design to accommodate nearly 4 dozen ships, seems to be lacking. Ships from all over the free cities are coming, from rich merchants to minor lords and even magistrates. The visitors are pouring in droves, and the inns at Osgiliath are insanely full, even with the tourney pushed a week away. Guards in fact have to set up a small clearing outside Osgiliath's walls, where visitors can pitch their tents or simply their hammocks, thanks to the lack of space. The amphitheater where the tourney will be held is still under wraps until the last week. That is when vendors, merchants, and the different groups of trade will be allowed to go in to give them time to prepare. Word through the grapevine at Rivendell tells that the Emperor of Yeti himself is coming with almost 100 ships to attend both to see the marvel of a city hastily built by the miracles of the old gods and, of course, the tourney. Other than the merchants, there are also the troubadours and entertainers of every kind. Where people flock, such groups always appear. There are also warriors and soldiers of renown popping in from all over Westeros and Essos. Even Rhaenys, who knows little about them, recognizes many of their identity. Some good samples are Oberyn Martell of Dorne, Loras Tyrell of the Reach, Beric Dondarrion of the Stormlads, the ever-drunk Thoros of Myr, who is said to have led the charge at Pike with a flaming sword, Khal Rhaego, a Dothri employed under the Sea Lord of Braavos, Dastan of the Free Cities, Prince Ali of the Desert Tribes of Ibabwa, Liam of Volantis, and Ser Kevan, who arrived with his son Lancel Lannister. All of them come for the tourney and to personally see the Dame of Rivendell. Of course, Rhaenys until now is still in awe of Daliana, though she will never mention it, except for Myrcella and Amelia, of course. The lands of Harrenhal is a small, decrepit land with nothing to it but a mighty big ruin of a castle. It is not even important, except for the fact that it is a mighty reminder for generations to come of the might of the Targaryens and their dragons. With the Targaryens exiled and the dragons no more, it is nothing more than simply a ruin of another age. It all, however, changed with the coming of the Lady Daliana, who turns it upside down and pulling potential after potential out of its empty pocket. If not for the simple truth that Rhaenys has personally seen the blessing of the old gods pull miracles out of thin air to aid the Lady of Rivendell in her endeavors, she might have credited it to magic. Her thoughts of Daliana, however, are rudely interrupted as a sickening feeling overwhelms her, making Rhaenys jump off her horse with little surprise from her escorts. Hands going to her stomach, Rhaenys runs to the portable toilet that is now present everywhere at Rivendell, even at Godswoods. Throwing the door open, she hurriedly rushes inside as the painful feeling inside her stomach worsens. She really hates Daliana for inventing chocolate. She also hates herself for being an addict at them and failing to control herself on eating too much. Rivendell, solar of the Lady Daliana. I'll be back later, okay, Delia? Myrcella smiles gently at Daliana, who simply nods at her in affirmation, still poring over the hundreds of letters and papers at her desk. I'm not going anywhere, Sella. Go and enjoy. Are you sure that you're going to be all right leaving you with all the work behind? Asks Myrcella, looking at the rather high piles of paper standing like silent sentinels waiting to be read. Yes, me and the papers are going to be fine, and I've got the servants continuing the coffee, the dame adds as Myrcella opens her mouth to add. Coffee is literally a godsend for them all in this hectic part of the tourney. Unfortunately, the atmosphere of Rivendell is one that literally radiates comfort that it makes its residents want to curl to the nearest recliner to get some shut-eye. Coffee is their saving grace on keeping themselves awake after Daliana introduced it to them. Go and do your thing, Sella. Stop being so worried all the time. The Dane waves her off with a hand, making Myrcella smile one more time before bowing in respect and exiting their shared room. Two of the death dealers immediately flanks her from behind. A small amount of guilt follows Myrcella as she steps out of the vine-covered hallways of the guest chambers. To say that Daliana is busy would be the understatement of the century as far as she is concerned. Apparently not even the Lady of Rivendell expects something of this magnitude to fall in her lap. Letters are pouring in like rain from every kingdom in this part of the seas and beyond. Everyone and their families are interested on attending, despite being at odds during the War of the Faith. Representatives, knights, and even Lord Paramounts are coming. Of course, Aziliath down below is already jam-packed by the early comers that the late ones are being forced to succor shelter on the nearby homesteads and forts, awaiting the date when the tourney final starts. Daliana, however, strictly forbids anyone from leaving the venue of Aziliath and its surrounding lands, unwilling to cause a diplomatic incident of a random devoted faith follower getting in odds with a local who believes in the old gods. Taxes currently, however, have never been higher ever since the creation of Rivendell. Myrcella already knows that the scribes of the Lady Amelia have stopped the accounting, the money, and are instead weighing them instead by bags. Even the Delianan miners up north have temporarily postponed the mining venture due to the need of workers, adding more inns and shelters for the coming visitors and for staffing Arena. There's also the added fact that many of the visitors are enamored by the miracle city itself that is finished in barely 3 months. Many are taking the opportunity to wander around and explore its wonders. Osgiliath, after all, is not like any ordinary city of Westeros in design. Other than the fact that every single building in it is made in white cement and marble, it also contains something that makes it different from Westeros: entertainment. Osgiliath has dozens upon dozens of them all around the city, and they're not the usual kinds to that Westerosi are used about. When Deliana first explained her reasoning why she's disseminating this new idea throughout Westeros, nobody saw the value in them, including her. Thus, the Lady of Rivendell asked her to enumerate the stuff that the average Westeros do to entertain themselves. Surprise, surprise, she barely counted it in one hand. Other than whorehouses, gambling dens, training yard bouts, tourneys, and the occasional jongleur or minstrel at the tavern, there was literally nothing else. Thus, Osgiliath catered the once more brilliant ideas of Deliana. Bands of every kind were encouraged from the populace itself, along with the invention of different musical items like the drums, the guitar, and the violin. The game of gambling was expanded from the dice and the simple blessings of the 7-card game to dozens upon dozens more, especially with the invention of the 52 cards. Table games also arose all over the place, which quickly became popular for the more intellectual and refined part of the populace. Inside smaller domes came businesses catering billiard tables, ping pong, chess, game of the generals, the ladder dice roll, bowling, tennis, badminton, and such. For the more active part of the populace, new entertainments are also catered. Fake crossbow stalls are placed at nearly every street, alongside darting. It is a favorite for the common folk as it is cheap, and they get to wield a fake crossbow and hit the small soldier miniatures and be rewarded based on range. Arenas on the more open areas are also made available, which caters to either boxing, wrestling, brawling, or simply honored duels. That is non-lethal. It was a lovely source of gambling for the boys, especially. Spaces such as these were also used for mock jousting via carts. It's basically a place where wannabe commoners play as knights, but instead stands on a wagon and be pulled by 2 others on their team against another team while holding elongated blunt sticks. At the lake and the rivers are also boat racing and the swimming races, which were used mostly to soothe wounded pride and egos. Sometimes Amelia thinks that the city of Osgiliath was one big entertainment center. The only thing that Osgiliath lacks, however, was whorehouses. Apparently, Deliana disapproved greatly of the trade of the flesh. The only reason, however, that she acquiesced to even allow only one whorehouse to be established at Osgiliath was because her father was coming also and would be expecting to be able to continue his hobby while here. Even then, the restrictions for a prostitute to work in such a building were so high that very few passed the requirements. Myrcella had stopped wondering about the decision-making quirks of Deliana. A very long while ago, she had come to accept that she'd never understand the beautiful Lady of Rivendell and simply went along for the ride. So far, she had not been disappointed. Deliana kept popping out wonder after wonder from that brain of hers, and prosperity continues to flow on her lands. Never had Myrcella in her entire life had seen small folk so happy. With the influx of wealth and the lack of cruelty, the small folk on the outer territories of Rivendell were almost like hedge knights in wealth, lifestyle, and pride, while those at the inner territories were more like minor lords in wealth and prestige, only with duties and responsibilities. Myrcella currently, however, does not care about all that, for she has something more important to deal with today. The conversation she had overheard before from her grandfather and her granduncle continue to haunt her. Specifically the part where they cannot bind Deliana to the crown. Myrcella might not care much for the realm or her family for that matter. It is pretty hard to care about a father that barely pays attention to you. A mother who is supposedly doting but is in fact obsessive only if you're gone. And a brother who would have no qualms putting a crossbow bolt on your leg just because it amuses him. She is not yet that close to Tommen due to their age gap. In a way, in her entire family tree, the only one she knows that even cares a lick about her is her grandfather. And she knows that even then, it's because of her family name and position. She also does not care about the common folk of Westeros that much, if she's going to be more honest to herself. All her life she lived at the position of utmost power, while she does her best to view them in a new light as Deliana taught her to. Years of ingrained culture tend to mar her feeling. At least she does care about them not suffering. She might not love them, but she has no desire to see them beaten or dying because of neglect. The more logical part of her argues also that happy underlings are easy to rule underlings. As she personally has seen Deliana do, it's so much better to walk in a populace that shouts blessings to your name instead of hidden knives. What Myrcella cares about, however, is her position, not her status, mind you, but her way of life currently. She prefers her life as it is, learning, growing, discovering new things with Ray and learning under Deliana, while tiptoeing to avoid trouble. She had seen war already, and Ray might never admit it, but she also did. No, what Myrcella wants above all is for the status quo, for the quiet to remain while she lives her life in peace. That's why the words of her grandfather about tying Deliana to the crown resonates within her. Staying at Rivendell taught Myrcella a lot about politics. The more she learns, the more she starts to understand that the grip of her father in the realm is a tenuous one, and the only thing that's keeping it standing is her grandfather's support of gold and the alliance forged during her father's rebellion. It is like a domino table that with the fell of one piece, everything would cascade down. It does not help that her father neglects the realm so badly that it's not funny. If not for Jon Arryn, it might have splintered already. Even then, the Falcon Lord is a pacifist by nature, and as he keeps the peace with no strength, as an example, shadows grow ever darker on it. Add the nature of the next king, which would be her brother, and once her grandfather died, she can almost smell the chaos coming in the future. That is why she understands more than anyone on securing Rivendell's support. Deliana is a superpower in her own might. Her unorthodox thinking is superb, and add the might and wealth of Rivendell. Battle-tested with its connections. What you have is a kingdom within a kingdom. It is a kingdom that does not rely on the rest of the Seven to survive, a trait it exhibited when it won during the War of the Faith. Her grandfather, as ambitious as he is right. They need to bind Deliana to the crown in a way, hopefully marriage. But who? Joffrey is absolutely out, and Myrcella would rather gnaw her own carcass than even suggest that. Tommen would not be a bad candidate, but thinking about it gives unhappy feelings to Myrcella's gut, for some reason. That is why she is here right now, descending on the ground floor. Guest quarters reserved mostly for not-so-important guests of Rivendell or those too old to climb its staircases. Myrcella has a plan, sort of, to make sure that the future she dreads not come to pass. Taking the staircase to the lower private guest quarters of Rivendell, Myrcella finally arrives at her destination. "Stay here, please," she says to the two death dealers, who wordlessly bowed before stationing themselves at the sides of the hallway. Raising her hand, Myrcella gently raps her knuckles at the wooden door in front of her. "For the last time, I'm telling you fools that I am too old to be bothering on going up the tower The annoyed loud voice from the inside stops abruptly as the door opens, showing the creased old face of a surprised Shalawind, the former Lady of Harrenhal. The older woman in front of her, as usual, bows at her presence immediately. No, Your Highness, my apologies for my loud voice of answering. I didn't know it was you," says the former lady. "Hello, Lady Wynn. Am I bothering?" asks Myrcella, smiling faintly at the old woman, her small confidant, other than her friends at Rivendell. She might have enjoyed the new reforms and learnings that she takes every day under the tutelage of Deliana, but Myrcella is no fool. Every now and then she would visit the old woman to learn from her the traditional practices of the realm. While Deliana means well with her new reforms and practices, many of the lords and ladies frowns heavily at that. As a princess, despite having zero inclination of leaving Rivendell anytime soon, it is her duty to learn more about her people and balance the traditional learnings with the new revisions. Lady Shella, sufficed it to say, is a gold mine of information and tradition. The older woman in front of her, as usual, bows at her presence immediately. No, Your Highness, my apologies for my loud voice of answering. I didn't know it was you," says the former lady. "No apologies are needed, Lady Shella. It's my fault for not sending word that I'm coming." Myrcella replies with a wave of her hands. "May I come in?" she asks. Of course. Your guards are not coming in, also, Your Highness," asks the old lady, looking at the two death dealers, who seems to be sharing stories with one another, if their giggling is any indication at the alley. "Not at the moment, no," Myrcella answers. "I have something private to discuss, and I want to consult your wisdom for this Lady Shella." says Marcella, nervously fidgeting with the edges of her yellow dress, making the older woman nod wordlessly before stepping aside to let her in. Marcella gups as the door closes behind her. She has been in this room many times, but currently she almost turns back. What she plans to ask advice about is a taboo of the highest order and heavily frowned upon Westeros, after all. "Here, take a seat, Your Highness," gestures the old woman to a more comfortable armchair. "My apologies that I don't have wine, but the Lady Delina would not allow me to drink due to my age. All I have is milk that the servants have heated from the kitchen. Just give me a minute, Your Highness." "Thank you, Lady Shella," Marcella replies, taking the offered seat. "You know it's for your good, why she banned you from wine, right?" she points out, earning her a half-hearted, irritated wife from the older lady. I know, all these new rules you young ones implement makes me feel as if I am reminded of my age every day. Thank you for your concern, though, Your Highness." "Think nothing of it, Lady Shella," Marcella replies as the woman fills a cup from an ornate pitcher that she brings to the table in front of Marcella. Muttering a small thank you to the older woman, Marcella takes a sip of the warm brew, enjoying the feel as it runs down her throat. "So what's troubling you, Your Highness?" asks the former Lady of Harrenhal, sitting in front of her. "How do you know that something's bothering me?" Marcella questions back with a look of shock at her face. Lady Shella, when simply gives Marcella an amused smile at that. "The blood of your mother's family runs strong in you, dear. You have that small crease on your forehead that the late Lady Joanna Lannister has when she's worrying about something. I've met her a couple of times when I am the same age as you. You're more alike to her in looks than you know, Your Highness." "Really?" asks Marcella, quite pleased by the knowledge that she inherited something nice from her mother's family. Other than her name and station, simply... "Yes," Shella replies simply. "But let's not get off topic, and you tell me about what's on your mind, Your Highness. Do you want me to watch over Ray again, not to wander off?" No. She's off to Osgiliath today. Castle life has been quite boring for her, so Deliana had sent her off there to get some fresh air, answers Marcella, taking a small sip of her milk. "Something about relationships, Lady Shella. I am in need of advice." A raised, creased eyebrow meets her. "You are young, Princess Marcella. Are you sure that you want to discuss this?" "Betrothals have been made on younger people than me, Lady Shella, and some are made when they are even formed in their mother's wombs. When it comes to marriage between two parties, age is never a priority." "You have a point there, Your Highness. I am still, however, unsure as to why you came to me," points out the old lady of Harrenhal. "It's simple, actually, Lady Shella. I understand that you grow up based on traditions of old, of us here at Westeros. I am not like you, since I spent most of my time learning here at Rivendell under the Lady Deliana, whose lessons, I'm afraid, are quite different from the traditional ones of Westeros." A wave of the old woman's hand Marcella takes as her cue to go on. "I've wondered, Lady Shella, how would the nobles of Westeros react if the betrothal I pursue would be on another woman?" The silence that greets her is almost damning, and for a split second, Marcella wonders if she has overstepped her bounds. In fact, "Wanting to pursue the Lady of Rivendell, then, Your Highness?" I must say, I'm not surprised. Marcella nearly drops her cup of milk at that as she stares in surprise and suspicion at the older woman. "How did you—" "As I've said before, Your Highness, you are more alike to your grandmother than you know," replies the old Wen with a wry smile. "Your grandmother always has that gleam on her eye when she talks about the Lord Tywin. It is the same gleam that I see right now in yours when you look every time at the Lady Deliana." "Does the entire castle knows about this?" asks Marcella, now feeling worried and a little bit panicky. The last thing that she wants right now is her secret being known to, well, everyone. Images of her being strung up by her ankles and being filled with quarrels from crossbows floats inside her head. Ironically, those shooting at her suspiciously look a lot like her brother, Joffrey. "No, only me, fortunately," answers Lady Shella, making Marcella sigh inwardly with relief. "Why, you're not disgusted by me, pursuing the Lady Deliana?" asks Marcella to the old woman. "Well, the more religious of Westeros might protest a lot," answers Shella, truthfully making Marcella wince at that. She has, after all, seen firsthand how belief drives people into madness. "But as for me, though, Your Highness, who you pursue up to you is your business. If I might ask, though, What is your reasoning for wanting to pursue her short of the fact that she's your taste? Marcella gulps before letting off her explanation about the worries that has been plaguing her ever since she heard about the plans of Bethrothal, or the lack thereof. When it comes to Deliana, she shares fully her desire to bind Deliana's loyalty to the throne and the royal family. She also tells of the impossibility of such a task and the lack of candidates that might be worthy, hopefully none, she prays, to get her hand. She has no qualms singing about Joffrey's less than appreciated character, and how Tommen would be also unsuitable. She also forwards herself as the only worthwhile candidate, seeing that she already has a good working relationship with said lady. I see, and I would be right to presume that, other than such fine points you make, Your Highness, a part of the real reason is that you like her, the old woman questions. Marcella blushes to the roots of her hair before nodding silently in affirmation. She would be lying to herself if she does not have a bit of her worship to the Lady of Rivendell. What's not to like about her after all? She's courageous, brave, steadfast, brilliant in every sense, modest but beautiful, polite. When it suits her, crass, wild, and free. She's not meek. Gods forbid Deliana is the farthest when it comes to meekness. She shows her thoughts, and she shows it in the loudest way possible for the entire world to hear. She's skillful with the sword, spear as she is with books. She is different in every way, and extraordinary. The question is not what is there to like. The question rather is what is there not to like. Then you need to work it out. Your Highness, answers the old woman with a sigh, making Marcella look at her confused. What do you mean, Lady Shella, she asks. I'm saying that the usual ways of making betrothals will not work, answers the old wind. With everything that you've said, I assume that she will not be tempted by either wealth, glory, position, or fame. She has them all, after all, unless she's aiming for the crown, which I really doubt. Rivendell, after all, is much more pleasant to live in compared to the Red Keep. Marcella mentally agrees to that. The Red Keep might be grand in its own way, but it certainly is nothing in spades compared to the homely castle of Rivendell, plus the fact that you don't have to worry about invisible ears and knives here listening at every corridor. So, will you help me on this endeavor of mine, Lady Shella? Marcella asks, looking pleadingly at the former Lady of Harrenhal, who only stares back at her seriously. For a moment, Marcella gulps as Lady Wynn simply stares, before sighing as she stands up and takes the entire pitcher of milk from the other table before putting it in theirs. Fine, but this would not be easy, Your Highness, and what you need first is to confirm is whether the Lady Deliana might be interested in you in the same way you are interested in her. Marcella only silently nods again as Lady Wynn refills her cup with warm milk. Let's not waste time, though, my lady, the old woman says. First and foremost, you need to learn the art of flirting. Rivendell Public Training Yard. The sound of horses galloping before wood meets wood is followed by the sound of clapping and cheering from the onlookers. For the young Lord Bolton, it is another story, as it takes all of his skill to keep himself from falling off his horse, thanks to the impact of the lance at it. Lance! He calls out loud to his aide, who throws him another blunted lance as he circles the field with his horse before charging again. His opponent, the Master-at-Arms of House Bolton. Master Hull does the same as he does. He grits his teeth once more as both lances find their mark at the shields as they clash. The jarring impact numbs his arm, and once more he almost flies off the stirrups, if not for his knees clamping hard on the saddle, a trick taught to him by some of his friends from the Vale. Master Hull, unfortunately, is not so skilled, and he flies off before meeting soft ground. The whoops and cheers of the onlookers once more sounds around him, and despite his numbed left arm and his aching chest, Domeric lets off a smile as he takes off his helmet to wave to his onlookers before nodding grimly at the gathered Bolton men-at-arms. Unlike most of the northern houses, House Bolton heirs privately need to prove their worth to rule. House Bolton, after all, has a reputation to keep, and hundreds of years ingrained to its populace is something that needs to be done by every house leader it has. Normally, the heir would prove himself to his father to be deemed ready. Due to the unexpected demise of his father via rock in the head, though, Domeric finds himself in the unenviable position of being a lord of the third most powerful house in the north at an extremely young age. Long story short, his grip on House Bolton is not, as strong as he likes. Many of his men, descendants of vassals of House Bolton since time immemorial, questions his legitimacy. Other than his youth, his character is also put in the pedestal. The natural distrust of Northerners to anything south backfires, quite badly, to his father's decision on fostering him in the Vale. House Stark's interest in putting him in his father's seat also has put him into disfavor. As said before, House Bolton, after all, are rivals of House Stark to the seat of the North since time immemorial, and so the same are their bannermen. Maester Volcon fortunately gave him good advice before he answered Lord Stark's call to go here south. With a battle victory under his belt, it goes a lot easier to staking his claim to the bloody legacy of the Red Kings, though he has zero desire to imitate them. Now to put the final nail to the coffin of securing a legacy is to secure a betrothal for a wife that would cement his rule over House Bolton. While most would prefer a northern bride for him, Demeric knows that a southern one will do very well the same, especially if said bride comes from a powerful house and one that supplies the entirety of the north on its own. He mentally sighs, though, as he looks once more at the empty parapets above him. He has been practicing his jousting for the coming tourney. For some reason, this southern lady is not looking down from her windows to admire him while he practices, as he observes the rest of the ladies from the Vale tend to do. Red Keep King's Landing. A certain mockingbird smiles as he listens to the old hand of the king drone on and on about the upcoming trip of the king to the new city of Osgiliath. He would be taking half his court with him, and surprisingly, even the royal family will be going, which surprised the hell out of many people. The queen, after all, refuses to leave King's Landing as much as possible, minus occasional visits to the Rock. This time, however, she insists and even wants to bring Joffrey and Tommen. The king, of course, is not happy with this, but acquiesces at the same time. The royal family, despite its parental members hating each other, has enough common sense to show a united outward public front. Of course, the reasoning why the queen wanted to venture out to Rivendell is because of Petter's personal whispers. A whisper there, a whisper here, and that one rumor of the Lady of Rivendell gathering power to become Queen of the Seven Kingdoms is more than enough for Queen Cersei to go idiotic enough to personally take the journey. Of course, the main reason why she wants to go is to extract her daughter there and bring her back. Never mind the rumors of her growth and desire to stay there. No, Petter happily left that out of his report. He has also sent some of his best assassins to be assigned with the Queen via fourth and fifth parties. Katir is no fool. He has seen the power exhibited by the Lady of Rivendell when fighting in the dark. He knows she is responsible for the deaths of many High Septons, no matter how much she claims otherwise. Yes, Petyr might have lost the battle in following the orders of his cat, but he will not lose the war. 2 days before the start of the tourney, Riverlands. The sound of clashing swords echo at the once personal training grounds of the Lords of Riverrun. During the days of Hoster Tully when he's young, it had been a place of training, learning, practice. When Hoster, however, aged and Edmure became the new heir of Riverrun, the once lively training grounds were left unattended and barely used thanks to the lack of interest shown by Edmure. With Hoster being old and frail, the private grounds became empty and unattended with weeds growing on it. Right now, however, it is restored and even improved. The once dirt-filled place are redecorated and cemented, courtesy of the artisans of Rivendell. Instead of rickety chairs, are now marble seats with the insignia of the fish of Riverrun. The empty training racks are filled with practice swords, with Delionite engravings, and the empty bins used by archers are filled with dummy arrows and real ones for practice. The fields, however, have the greatest change. Its once lonely places are now full of people. Old and new master-at-arms are running around, drilling recruits for the River Guard, the permanent garrison of Riverrun. Apparently Hoster, after reviewing how Edmure was strong-armed by his lords via parking the Holy Army outside Riverrun's walls, was not the least pleased. Thus he sought to rectify that by making the River Guard, a 500-strong garrison that would be a permanent fixture at Riverrun. The castle is nigh impregnable and would be very hard to siege due to the natural river defenses that cover it and its 5 gates. Even a force that small can hold off an attack 5 times its size, with little effort, thus the rather brutish training. It is Edmure, however, that had the biggest change. Right now he bashed with wild abandon at the shield of his opponent, making up with enthusiasm and raw power instead of skill. His opponent, of course, is Master Florn, the castle's man-at-arms responsible for training him. It doesn't take long for the man to parry Edmure's attack and slash him with his own sword, nicking the air at the collarbone. That's dead? Try again. This time, don't just bash the shield. Attack from different angles teaches the man twirling his sword and getting ready in position. The old Admiral Tully might have hissed and spluttered before throwing his sword at the ground, protesting that he had more fun things to do. This new Admiral is different. He gets into ready position, preparing his sword before charging in, once again. If somebody asked Admiral what changed him, he would not himself know. All he remembers is that one moment he is lounging at the chair of Riverrun, debating inside his head whether he made the right choice of letting the Holy Army run off to finish of his sister when his father came running down the stairs, looking 10 years younger and healthier than anything Edmure had seen before. He remembered drinking wine after the rather harsh dressing down for his idiocy. After that, courage and a thirst for being respected and desiring the admiration of his family and people stoking his very being. For the life of him, Edmure had no idea why he was so content on simply lounging around, neglecting his duties left, right, and center. He was the future Lord of Riverrun, and his entire family would be depending on his skill as a lord. He knows, of course, how great a responsibility he would have as Lord of Riverrun one day, and the fate of his entire family hangs in the balance. He swore then and there that he would be someone that his father and family would be proud of. That's why he marched readily to war despite being half-assed with a sword. That's why he accepted Deliana as a sister despite her status. She was a bastard, but she's a very successful bastard to boot, and one that he can proudly add to the annals of their family's history. That's also why he trained every day despite being browbeaten at the ground every time. The new energy drink his father had given him is making him full of fire and strength. He will earn his place and his title. First and foremost, though, he has to get past this master-at-arms and avoid eating dirt at every round. River run, side benches, private training yard. Would you want some pizza, Lady Deliana? Oh, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Sella, replies Deliana with a smile, trying her damnedest not to stare too much at the rather bare neck and shoulders of the Princess of the Realm as she bends down to give the plate to her. If you have time later, my lady, would you like a game of the generals with me? I'm afraid no one would fancy a match with me with Ray down at Augilaeth. She once more smiles, that beautiful smile that seems to reflect the sun's radiance. Oka, of course, Sella, I will be visiting you at the gardens soon. I hope you are ready to lose, replies Deliana in a challenging tone despite the butterflies gurgling at her stomach. Oh, but my lady, I only play to win, the princess responds with something akin to a lioness purring, making Deliana blush, as she once more leans to her face, that their noses are inches to one another. The sudden choking sound, followed by coughing, breaks the rather near close contact between the two, as Hoster Tully at the side smacks his chest with the palm of his hand repeatedly. Is he okay? Marcella blinks, backing away from Deliana. Should I call the Meister? No, he's all right, princess. Deliana quickly answers, seeing the opening that her father is giving her. I'll be right with you once we finish up here. Thank you for the pizza. Pleasure, Delia, Marcella replies with a faint smile, looking once more at the coughing Tully before walking off. She's nearly at the stairs, though, before she turns back, looking at Deliana. And it's Sella, Lady Deliana, okay? She smiles before walking off, with a rather not-so-innocent sway of her hips that Deliana's eyes remain focused on for a second or two. The shoulder bump from Hoster snaps Deliana back to reality as she turns to glare at the rather knowing smirk being directed to her by her father. That girl likes you a lot, said Lord of the Riverlands with an eye waggle, making Deliana turn beet red at the teasing. Unlike the rest of we are just friends, she replies. But she knows that it is at best a weak excuse. Delina, after all, is no slouch when it comes to betting women, left, right, and center, before when she's Harry the Great. Even though she has refrained from taking a peek into Sella's and Rhaenys' minds due to the simple fact that she cares for them, she doesn't need mind reading, though, to see the telltale signs of Sella throwing the moves at her. The young girl, these past few days, have been wearing more revealing dresses in her presence that she would have been caught dead on wearing before. She has been a little bit more touchy, also, letting her usual touch linger every time she can get away with it. There's also the huskiness in her voice every time she teases Deliana. Keep telling yourself that, snorts Hoster, earning him an unhappy glare from Deliana. She's beautiful, a princess, rich, and come from a rich family. Any pureblood back home would be running each other over for the opportunity you are being thrown at your face. Lyanna is the one to snort this time, happily neglecting to mention that it would be in her best interests to stay far away from the politics of Myrcella's family. While she has a good working relationship with Tywin due to mutual respect, same cannot be for her father's side. As far as Lyanna's opinion is concerned, the farther she is with being associated with the drunkard and professional whoremonger at the throne, and his bitch of a queen who doesn't seem to understand that her relationship with her husband is the key into maintaining her power, the happier she'll be. Myrcella has shared enough facts for her to know that even she doesn't like her own family. She's too young, Lyanna simply answers, thanks to her father's rather inquisitive gaze, and there would be no need for betrothal for me. I'm rich, I'm powerful, and I have allies. What would be the purpose of my betrothal? Love, of course. The simple answer from Hoster catches Lyanna off guard as she looks at the face of her father, looking at her with a soft expression, the care lines of his face disappearing. When I first married your mother, many of the Potter family allies disapproved. He chuckles as he looks forward to Edmure eating dirt again. They have no issues with me marrying a half-blood, but a muggle-born, let's just say that Augusta Longbottom, who is my godmother, can talk for hours if she gets into a hissy fit, he sighs. Our family, well, as you might already be aware, the Potter family is well off and light-sided or not. It causes stir if the current heir marries one that is a muggle, he explains. Long story short, I married your mother out of love, not out of politics, by the families, or by any sort of gain. But you did gain something, though, father, replies Lyanna, earning her a raised eyebrow from Hoster. Oh, and what is it? Lyanna simply smirks at him in victory. Common sense. I doubt you successfully transformed yourself without some outside help, especially with Sirius as your best friend. True. I admit she did tame us. The king of the forest, the dog of death, and one well-behaved student suffering from his little furry problem every month. He laughs before they return, watching Edmure being brained by the master-at-arms. Lyanna sighs before saying, Look at it this way, father. You might not have the chance to raise me as your son, but you will have the chance right here, right now. She gestures to Edmure, who rises up with an unnecessary battle cry before charging again. He's already old, Hoster simply replies, Yes, and you will have your work cut out for you, father. Lyanna stands, dusting off her dress. After all, you might never have started him on this path, without dosing him with a high amount of confidence-enhancing potions mixed with a bad batch of liquid luck. Hoster winced at that. Never the best at potions. I know, Lyanna replies. Thankfully, your overdosage makes those added traits a permanent fixture of his character. Personally, I prefer this new Edmure rather than the old one. Sister, I got him! Edmure cheerfully shouts at her with a wave of his sword, pointing to the small welt at the gloves of the master-at-arms. Yes, you do. Good job, E.D. Moore. Lyanna shouts back before looking down at her still-sitting father. Good luck on trying to raise a younger version of a hyperactive Sirius Black father. She only laughs as Hoster groans before leaving to find Myrcella. Hopefully she'll be wearing something decent, and not something tempting that would cause the hormones of Lyanna to dance around. Ridkeep? Private Solar of Queen Cersei. Are you sure they will work? Cersei asks, looking at the red gem sitting innocently at her hand. It is the size of an egg, but its inside looks like it contains a moving fire. Of course, your grace, the Red Priest. Laro replies with a bow. It would prevent those with magic from doing anything to your mind. It can also protect you from curses of the heathen gods that rule this world. Any kind of magic and sorcery would dissipate when touched by this. What about creatures? Creatures, your grace? Laro blinks in confusion, making Cersei eye-roll. Dim-witted priest. Yes, creatures, animals made from foul magic and sorcery, she repeats heatedly. Of course, your grace, any foul being made from magic would be scorched if they touch you while you are wearing this. Good. Cersei simply replies before pinning the gem on her corset. Your grace, the payment, the priest reminds nervously, earning him a disapproving look from Cersei. I have forwarded the gold to your temple, priest. Now leave me be. The man cannot be out faster as he almost trips on his own feet. Simpleton, Cersei hisses beneath her breath before checking herself out in the mirror again with her new ornament. Yes, this would do nicely, she thinks to herself before turning back to her preparation on leaving the Red Keep. There is no way in Seven Hells that she is going to the land of the tree huggers and mud worshippers without some healthy divine protection of her own. Unlike some, after all, Cersei has a healthy dose of respect for the supernatural. Docks of former House Mutin, Yeti fleet, I'm not impressed. Surely a lady as famous as the Lady Lyanna would have better harbors for her territory, right? Baka, the chubby emperor of Yeti, comments as he looks disapprovingly at the ramshackle territory of a town that is House Mutin. She just won a war, your majesty, and this land is newly annexed territory. Word is majority of her construction efforts, both in manpower and wealth, are directed at the White City of Osgiliath, where the tourney would be held. His prime minister replies with a bow. Now that just won't do, Balkala. Linghan unhappily replies before sniffing in disgust as he can smell shit in the ground. The Lady Lyanna is a well-known friend of our empire. Essentially, our relationship with her here will reflect in all of Yeti. What would people say about us if we do not take care of our friends? That would be a poor taste for the rumors, your majesty. His prime minister replies with a bow. It's decided. Send word to my regent back home through one of the ships. Get at least 1 million, no too little, 3 million peasants from the provinces, and send them here. They would serve as serfs for the Lady Lyanna. Let it be known that the Emperor of Yeti, Mi Han, does not look after his friends. T3 million, your majesty, asks the blinking prime minister. Yes, Han replies with a nod, sending his heavy jowls jiggling. Feed them and nourish them well along the way here. I would not want the lady to be thinking we are giving him beggars and dying animals. That would take a lot of work, your majesty, points out the prime minister. Then they better get moving. I want the peasants ready to be transported the moment I get back home. Oh, of course, your majesty, the man bows before scurrying off to obey his orders. Han is only 33 years old, but he looks more like 50 due to his obesity. He has a double chin, and the emperor's red robes of Yeti are personally tailored to fit his body. His hair is balding and only has a small tuft remaining at the top. All in all, he is terribly lacking when it comes to the looks department. Like his father before him, Han is born into station as the next ruler of Yeti. While his body and face leaves much to be desired, his mind, however, is another matter. With the kingdom of Gosien only a mile away, and the empire of Hanzhou with their skillful Arashis, the threat to Yeti is high. This is why he established the long route trade with Westeros to Lyanna's small kingdom. Yeti is always in dire need of food to support its large Rs. It is a fine balance to cater to the desires of both the peasantry and the nobles of his empire, while continuing the centuries-old war. That's why rice and spices is always in high demand. It is also in his best interest to keep Lyanna happy, lest she bail from their agreement. Rice, after all, is becoming a known commodity that very few has an inkling to grow. He has to give props to the Dame of Rivendell at that. She guards her secrets well. He is here, however, to celebrate a tourney, whatever that is. It is apparently to commemorate the victory of Lyanna against the Faith, a religion of Westeros that earned her new lands and territories. Now, he personally doesn't care about which religion of Westeros fight with whom. What he cares, however, is the lady's viewpoint of him as a friend and an ally. Of course, as the 100 ships of UT makes port on the docks of Mutin, Emperor Han wonders if his gift of worth, a kingdom that he brought with him, would be enough to make Lyanna more inclined to the partnership of their nations. The twins. River Run. They're letting us stay for free, asks a very confused Eddard Stark to Demeric Bolton, who simply nods. Yes, Lord Stark, by order of the king, all from the north who would be attending the tourney would have free passage at the twins, replies the young lad. That is wonderful, Ned, booms the great John over enthusiastic Umber. That must have grilled the old Frey. Yes, it does. Lord Umber, replies the young Bolton with a wry smirk. All right, we move out. We pay our respects to Lord Frey before we head south. Ned calls out loudly, making the rest of the northern lords with him to cheer at the good news. All of them, after all, brought extra coin to pay for Lord Frey's toll, as usual. As far as Ned can see, this is probably the first time that so many northern lords are heading south. Thanks to the trade deals with Rivendell that kept them fed last winter, many of the northern lords are rather more accepting of the bastard Tully. It helps that she is a worshipper of the old gods also. Don't get him wrong, many of the northerners still despite anything related to the south. They are just rather accepting of the bastard Tully, since she's different than the rest of the pricks, as far as they are concerned. This journey of hers is also a thing of interest to many. Not only are the prizes big, It is different than any tourney anyone has ever seen, according to rumors. There's also Augileath, the White City, the Miracle City finished in barely 3 months, and according to rumors again, the grandest city of Westeros. Suffice it to say that despite the distrust of the Northerners, a fair number are curious enough to come with him down south for one or so reasons. There are the Umbers, Karstarks, Manderleys, Glovers, Foresters, Whitehills, and of course, the Starks. Eddard does not fail also on noticing that many of said families also have brought their sons with them. They are really subtle on being unsubtle. Now that the bastard of Tully has achievement after achievement to her name, the lords are considering that she would be a worthy bride after all. Beautiful, rich, powerful, and most importantly, single. Eddard is not stupid though. He might be the second son, but he recognizes enough from the political climate that short of a royal wedding, or if miraculously a son of a lord paramount with a lot of things and promises attached, it would be next to impossible to propose a betrothal to the Lady of Rivendell. That's why he brought the entirety of his family, minus little Bran and Arya, who have to be left behind at Winterfell since they are so small. The rest of them, however, are coming, including Jon and Catelyn this time. Suffice it to say that the reason why he brought Jon, even though his worries about Robert recognizing him as the son of Rhaegar Targaryen, is because of the simple fact that he needs someone to keep an eye on Robb with so many lords gathering. Jon is a good lad, after all, with a level head and could accompany Robb when he's not around. Last time an heir of the North got lost in a tourney, well, it ended with a pregnant Ashara Dane. As for Catelyn, Ned brought her with him since she wants to see her family. Apparently news have trickled into Winterfell that Edmure and Hoster, alongside her uncle Brynden, have reconciled with Deliana. She is less than pleased, of course, and have insisted on coming to set things straight within the family of hers. Ned once decided that. Normally he would try to stop Catelyn from doing something that she might regret, but she's almost frothing at the mouth in anger when she received the news that Ned left her be. Let Hoster deal with her this time while he keeps an eye on Jon. With Catelyn so focused on hating her bastard sister, her usual attentions to Jon have been close to non-existent, and the lad has a few weeks of peace without being insulted. Ned, while tired with all the drama in his family, personally wonders, though, in no small amount of interest, the things he would discover at the tourney. Reach, King's Road. You should stop frowning, brother. It would make you look unfavorable for the ladies, Garland Tyrell teases at his older brother, who scowls inside his wheelhouse. I'm trapped in this damn wheelhouse. I would look ridiculous and unmanly compared to everyone else who is riding a horse, hisses Willis Tyrell. Not for the last time, cursing his bad leg that prevents him from riding a stallion. Look at the bright side, brother. There is a reason why grandmother dressed you with enough bling and delianite to blind all ladies' eyes, teases Loras. Imagine how unseeing they will be when you step down from the wheelhouse of... Okay, stop throwing peanuts at me, you damned sensitive idiot, laughs Loras as he pulls away with his horse the peanut coverings that serve as Loras's ammunition. Willis Tyrell grumbles to himself as he lies down on the comfortable cushions of the wheelhouse he is in. The Reach, of course, supported the Faith due to the simple fact that, other than any refusal, would anger a lot of their bannermen. It is unwise to support the losing side. Who in the world would expect that a single house, a Riverlander at that, would not only survive, but even win with the entirety of the Faith against her? That's why Willis is here. He needs to see this Lady Deliana personally and make sure that she would hold no animosity with House Tyrell. He has been researching things about her after she got his attention by standing against the Faith. Willis has to admit that he's impressed. Founder of Delianite, builder of Rivendell, brightest woman in the land, pragmatic and courageous, the only female knight in existence. She would have made a good wife. The only hiccup is she's a former bastard. Narrow sea. Oberyn admits that he loves the longboats of Rivendell. While a lot smaller compared to the longboats used by the Ironborn, they are sturdier and halloo a lot faster. It also contrasts well with his wanderlust. While the rest of Dorne's party have taken the long King's Road in order to attend the great tourney, Oberyn has taken a longboat that they bought before with great price from a merchant that purchased it from Rivendell instead to go via the waves with his brother's son, Quentyn Martell, to give the lad some worldly experience. Said worldly experience, of course, is the young man's first time facing a squall at the narrow sea. Hold your oars up, heave. Captain Hota's voice carries even through the thunder of the skies as the longboat rides through the giant waves. Can we see the coast? Can we see the high towers guiding fire? asks a terribly panicky Quentin Martell looking like a drowned rat. I see nothing but the wind and the rain, booms Oberyn as another lightning bolt pierces the sky. No fire, no stars by which to navigate. We are lost, uncle. Lost to the sea, his young nephew wails. Oberyn simply grins as he stands at the prow, remembering the words of a sailor he met once before in his journeys. Perfect time to imitate. The sea's my mother, nephew. She'll never take me back to her murky womb. What the fuck? You're insane. Unsi kisa se ki sula. Quentin's panic cry echoes as the boat takes a steep nosedive through the back of a large wave before cresting again to another wave, thanks to the efforts of the rowmen. The storm has no end. Uncle, he cries out once more. I don't want to die yet. Oberyn can't help the mad cackle that leaves his lips. This is no earthly storm, nephew. That's for sure. Yet this demon's tempest would not hold us out. For we are UN bowed, UN bent, UN broken. Oberyn, Oberyn, Oberyn. The 48 rowers cheer in response to his call. Who wants to live? We do. Then pull your oars, men. Pull like your very lives depend on it. For Dorne, for glory, for gold. Oberyn's mad cackle could be heard, followed by the thread of curses from Quentin as the boat sails through another giant wave. Author's note, thanks for the support, fellow travelers of Westeros. Hope you like this chapter. Omeke Deliana's Scatty outfit. Referred to Scattiac by Jackie5493 at DeviantArt as source. This will do. Deliana comments more to herself, quite pleased with her outfit. Good job, Master Halleys. She smiles at the tailor, who bows before excusing herself with her ladies. Deliana personally hates dresses. She does not approve of them. After all, she can't fight or move freely, and it goes against her mental state, thanks to her previous life about wearing dresses. Thus, this outfit, she has no idea what prompted her to make this. All she knows is that its design came from when she's dreaming, and thus she has it made by her tailors from Rivendell. It is basically a transparent violet silk body glove that covers everything neck down. A darker violet lingerie nightgown is worn outside the body glove, bound together by silken dark violet lines. It covers her breasts, but totally shows the entirety of everything else, as it stretches to her arms and to her hips. An outer violet underwear is also worn to hide her privates. Atop her head is a tiara of black that circles on her hair. Time to show this then to the girls, she happily says to herself, before walking onto the guest solar where she knows Rhaenys, Amelia, Yasmina, and Marcella would be lounging since it's their break time. With a bang, she pushes the door open. Surprise, she shouts out loud, posing with a hand at her hips as she looks at the 4 pairs of eyes. What do you think of my outfit? The result is immediate. Amelia drooled, spilling the ink pot, which she is refilling as she became still like a statue. A fountain of blood erupts from Marcella's nose before crashing on the ground in a dead faint. Rhaenys' eyes opened as wide as dinner plates, her mouthing pausing in an O formation. The ghost of Sarther Dane throws itself from nearest window to hide his ghostly, raging boner. Yasmina, however, simply blinks before casually also taking off her clothes. What are you doing? Asks a terrible, confused Deliana, who is totally caught by surprise of the reactions of her friends and confidants. Her concubine simply cocks her head to the side as if not understanding her. You planning to bed us all, right, Lady Deliana? That's why you're wearing that. Deliana is struck dumb by her words as she opens and closes her mouth. Totally not understanding her, she is however surprised when someone yanks her off balance, sending her crashing to the sofa, back first. Mine, you are mine. Marcella's voice is half crazed as she crawls all over Deliana's form, her eyes bugging out of her skull, drooling before it looks at her underwear. Wait! Sella! With a gasp, Deliana wakes up from her sleep, realizing that she is still at her bed in Rivendell, alone at her room. With a sigh, she magically pulls to her the pitcher of butterbeer at her dresser. That is one weird dream, she thinks to herself, taking a sip of the heavenly brew. Inside her dresser, the Resurrection Stone finally got the template for the Cloak of Invisibility, which is its pair. Slowly, the attire from her dreams start to slowly appear inside her dresser. Lord Renly, Baratheon, Stormlanders. The 5 massive ships of the Stormlands skim through the open waters of the eastern coast of Westeros. Atop its deck, lines upon lines of men wearing the familiar yellow and black surcoats of the Stormlands stand in attention. All of them look fresh and ready. It is not really a surprise, seeing that these men are all seasoned sailors used to the rigors of the sea like any Stormlander worth their salt. More importantly, though, they are personally chosen by Renly in this journey to protect their liege and represent the Stormlands in the upcoming tourney. Among their retinue are people with different skills that would be participating in the list of events that would be hosted in the tourney. There are wrestlers, soldiers, poets, artists, riders, knights, all of them here to win Gloriad gold. At the prow of the lead ship stands, resplendent in vibrant green colors of green, yellow, and black, is Prince Renly himself with his doublet. His stormy blue eyes look over the already filled harbor of Moontawn. He would be lying to himself if he says that he is not excited. Being a member of the small council is boring and tedious as far as he is concerned. As master of laws, at the best of times, after all, is boring. It is a demanding job if you do it right, as Jon Arryn does. Add the fact that he is Lord Paramount of the Stormlands, and his duties are 10 times worse, as many the Stormlands might as well balanced in the seas and the land. But the Stormlands is not the wealthiest of all the great houses, and the trade routes are contested by the might of the Reach, the Westerlands, and the thrice-blasted Ironborn pirates. The only reason the Stormlands manage to retain their position on the Great Game is due to the simple fact that they have royal connections, seeing that the king is a Stormlander. Extra funds from Robert brings untold number of opportunities and gold that is necessary on the maintenance of its navy, which basically serves as the royal fleet. The gulls sweep through the ship, showing soon the rugged outlines of the eastern coast of Rivendell and the dark outline of the busy harbor they are heading to. Already, even in the distance, Renly espies dozens upon dozens of ships heading as they are. He does not fail to notice that a lot of them are also foreign vessels, each bearing the flag of a house, a nation, or a kingdom. They must be all here for the tourney also and personally see the Lady Deliana of Rivendell. He thinks to himself as he watches a ragged longboat with the flag of Sunspear limp sadly to the harbor. It looks like it has taken a beating, as its appearance is a lot less than its appreciated design. He smirks, though, as he sees a young Dornishman looking like a drowned rat vomit at the sight of the longboat before crashing onto its decks, panting. Renly, despite liking boys of course, has read the political climate perfectly, other than the victory against the faith. Word has spread, after all, about the 2 famous bachelorettes that live at the territory of Rivendell. Renly Baratheon would bet his left nut that everyone coming to this tourney have brought their nephews and sons in the hopes of snagging at least either the Princess of the Crown or the Dame of Rivendell. He barks a chuckle at the thought. He himself is not innocent of playing the familiar games of betrothal and alliance-seeking. Together with his retinue is Beric Dondarrion, with his wife Elaria Dane and their nephew Edric Dane of Starfall, who is a bachelor himself and soon to be lord in his own right. The prize, after all, to whoever snags one of the 2 bachelorettes is either the rich country of Rivendell, with its great potential, or a royal betrothal. Renly Baratheon smirks as he leans at the prow of the skip, quite excited in what is to come. This tourney is sure to be going interesting as far as he can already see. Osgiliath, North Gate. People stand aside as the neighing of horses sound down the road. She has done well. Very well, brother, comments Kevin, riding beside Tywin, looking at the beautiful paved roads and stone-white houses. Indeed, Tywin simply replies. Inside, though, the old Lion of the Rock is impressed. Very impressed when word reached him of the king's demand to Diliana to arrange a tourney in only 3 months. He had been quite annoyed. He is, after all, doing his damnedest to forge a good working relationship with the Lady of Rivendell to tie them in the crown in any way he can find, thanks to the impossibility of a royal betrothal. He of course knows that the royal family was not in any way a family. You would want to call your friends, thanks to the mismanagement of Robert, despite Jon Arryn's attempts on fixing the realm. There's also the disturbing rumors regarding the Crown Prince that Tywin wanted personally to fix. Unfortunately, these days his attentions are divided. With the drying up of the gold mines of Casterly Rock, House Lannister, sufficed it to say, find themselves in serious trouble. Thus, before the fires of damage worsens, Tywin had been doing his damnedest to pour water on them, and finding new sources of income for House Lannister. Currently, all that is keeping House Lannister from dipping into his emergency vaults are the usual monthly taxes from the trading post belonging to Rivendell. Their goods are so new and so limited that every resupply of said posts would usually end up only a day or two before going empty again. Already he is finalizing the total demolishment of the old castle Tarbeck and arranging for the lands to be at rent for Rivendell. Apparently, according to Rivendell's Castellan, Lady Amelia Diliana plans to invest even more on agriculture to keep up with the demands of Yeti and the North for both rice and meat supply. Tywin, of course, is confused as to how in the world is she going to succeed on planting in a completely hilly area. The Castellan only sent him a letter that they'll deal with it, and his only responsibility is to make sure that the old ruins are completely gone. Interesting concept of roads, comments Kevin beside him, pulling Tywin out of his thoughts as he looks at his brother. He wordlessly gestures for him to continue. All I'm saying, brother, is that her concept of roads is interesting, states Kevin, with a gesture to the two-way paved roads that are clear of small folk walking around. Now that Tywin is seeing it, he has to admit that it is unique, unlike the King's Road or, God's forbid, the dirt roads at King's Landing. The roads here are all stone-like. Everything else, it is their way of usage. However, that is different. Normally, roads at Westeros can be used by anyone, small folk, knights, soldiers, wagons, all of them. When those atop horses, cows, or wheelhouses appear, the rest on foot just jump aside to avoid being trampled. Of course, there's always a 1 out of 10 possibility that a poor schmuck might be trampled to death. Usually small folk. Even then, it is the reality of Westeros. It is in fact almost second nature to even Tywin himself. This system currently facing him, though, just shows the narrow-minded focus that the Dame of Rivendell is putting in her plans and creations. The roads here at Osgiliath, as far as he can see, only caters to wagons and riders. The footwalk, a smaller version of the roads at the sides, serve as places where those who deem to walk in 2 legs traverse. Places are assigned specifically with the town guard, where people can cross the streets and avoid them being trampled. Ingenious. Even he, with all his thoughts of improving the Rock back in the day, when he first became Lord Lannister, never thought of a system such as this. Sure, it might not be affecting the larger plans that a lord or a lady should be worried about, but at the same, to be able to think of something like this just shows the capability inside that brain of the Dame. Tywin personally values it more than any skilled warrior. A person can be a skilled warrior with enough training and equipment. Intelligent people, however, are rare as gems on the shoreline. It is not something that one can simply get, but one must be born with it. Diliana Tully is one of those gems. Not for the last time. Tywin curses under his breath for the stupidity that his grandson inherited from his father, and his personal inability to bind the Tully bastard to their family. The road to the Colosseum, Osgiliath. By the gods above and below, you've got to be kidding me, Jon Royce can't help but gasp as his eyes behold the large structure that could be seen even in the distance. It takes a lot to impress the Valamen when it comes to castles. The Knights of the Vale, after all, pride themselves on their mountainous abodes, which is no easy feat to build. Designs which are meant for stopping mountain clan men from attacking, balancing with aesthetics. Castles of the Lords of the East are both large and powerful, containing great ancestry. Lord Jon Bronze Royce, however, right now, can personally say that today he is awed and impressed as he looks down below the hilly road that he and his men are taking as they march towards the site where the tourney is going to be. He is not the only one impressed, as nearly all of his men are muttering and pointing at the structure at the distance. In fact, everyone who is making use of the hilly pathway is pausing as they behold, for the first time, the massive marvel of construction, and Winton good reason. Down below the side of the mountain can be seen is a massive elliptical structure bearing the telltale designs of an amphitheater. Rising like a large monument, it is massive in size that even this far away, they can clearly see its designs. It is the size of a small mountain itself, with specks of black around it, filled with lights showing the dimensions of the city that surrounds it. It is so big that it looks like it is made by the hands of giants and not that of men. Beside it is a massive statue almost in the same height as the amphitheater at its size. It depicts the image of a helmeted woman wearing form-fitting scale armor and pants, holding a spear at its hand raised to the sky. It stands like an immovable sentry of the amphitheater, welcoming everyone who has come to enter it. There can be no doubt, of course, who the statue is depicting. There is, after all, only one woman in this part of the world, that is famed for the use of a Valyrian spear. Now, this trip surely has become interesting. Jon Royce comments more to himself as he drinks in the view below him. Rivendell sure holds many curiosities. At least I know now where that all ungodly amount of marble and stone they are ordering go. That is in fact a complete understatement. These past 3 months, House Royce has been forced to pull the entirety of its small folk from their usual jobs and practices in order to mine the needed marble and stone. Suffice it to say that House Royce became rich in a few months' time, earning them a lot of raised eyebrows from the rest of the Vale Lords. Curiosity's uncle, that is not a curiosity but a miracle, his young son and heir, Robert Royce exclaims, flapping his arms dramatically beside him. That building is as large as the Dragon Pit at King's Landing. Larger, in fact, corrects Jon Royce, rubbing his chin with his forefinger and thumb. At least we now know where all our marble and stone went when we sent it before. I'd always wondered what the Lady Deliana was building with all those massive orders of hers. I've expected a large wall at least, or a castle like Harrenhal. Not this. This is concerning Father. Rivendell's growth has been exponential ever since she has taken the mantle as Lady of Harrenhal. Worse, it shows no signs of stopping anytime soon. I'm worried for the future, Father. It would be a great threat to the Vale if war ever breaks out between the kingdom. In time, we might have an alliance with them now due to the relationship of Lord Arryn with the king and Lord Starks and Tully, but alliances never last. Yes, I understand your point, my son. Jon replies simply. The growth of this kingdom within a kingdom will not stop. I'm sure of it. The question remains, though, is it in the best interest of our house to continue supporting it, or help its enemies destroy it? Should the worst comes to worst, decisions. For now, though, we are here as guests, so stop your worrying, my son, and do try to enjoy the tourney. Jon chuckles as he gestures for the rest of his knights to continue their trek downward. The path. Yes, Father, Robar simply replies, following him. Despite the assurances of his father, Robar can't help but be worried, though. A large number of the Knights of the Vale had joined back then the Holy Army that got killed to a man on the newly dubbed Forest of Death, after all. Grand Colosseum, Osgiliath. There are very few things that can ruffle the feathers of Deliana these days. Personally, as a coping mechanism of the past few hectic months, she takes life in a stride these days. It basically astonishes the nobles she had cut deals with to make the building of the city of Osgiliath come into being. She had basically waved off every insult and snide comment that the ruling class of this continent loves to quip on their words to their rivals and hated peers while hiding in the veneer of Caristi. She's not fazed as she made deals with angry Riverlanders, Stormlanders, Reachers, and Crownlanders to trade for the 1,000,001 things that were sorely needed for the impossibility of Osgiliath to be possible. In every essence of the word, Deliana is a role leader that can inspire people even without trying. Her beauty, which has grown through the months, and presence are more than enough. However, every single one of her subordinates that works under her know only one rule. When Deliana puts into plan something, follow it to the letter. No one, after all, wants to imitate the fate of that idiot knight representing the faith as a sign of bygones be bygones, who questioned Deliana's plan again and again about the new entertainment forms that are not whorehouses. When the dame refused fully his proposal, he insulted her in her face, saying that she is nothing more than a girl that needs a man to breed her, for that is all girls are good for. He certainly did a nice cartwheel midair when Deliana throws him off one of the 100 terraces of Rivendell down to the swamps below. In fact, there are only 2 things that can force Deliana to change her mind once she sets her eyes on something. Those are either logical reason that can force her to think and reconsider, or one of the people she cared for, basically either Emilia, Marcella, Yasmina, Rhaenys, the ghost of Ser Arthur Dayne, and added newly are Hoster Tully and Edmure, since only he's too adorable. In fact, on any of the people mentioned above, as far as Deliana is concerned, they can get away with anything in her territory short of murder, and even that is debatable. Deliana, however, currently cannot stop the twitching of her right eyebrow as her emotions wander somewhere between exasperation and disbelief, for good reason, to her project. She has been preparing for the grand tourney by the order of the king, as the world calls it, is the building of a massive amphitheater, which is the size of the Colosseum of Rome back home. Hundreds of thousands of workers and a continuous supply of ships bearing raw materials via rivers have been coming and going ever since the War of Faith is won. It is simply Deliana's mark to the world, a man-made wonder that would be rivaling that even of Brandon the Builder's gigantic pile of ice. With the king's order, it would suit her needs perfectly. The Colosseum of Osgiliath today would be its debut for the entire world to see. It is elliptical in design and is 189 meters long and 156 meters wide. The height of the outer wall is 48 meters. The entire perimeter is 545 meters, almost the size of the original Colosseum. What Deliana does not expect to see, however, when she arrived here, though, is the massive bronze statue of her painted in pure white with 1,000 Delianite designs on it, standing at the side of the Colosseum, standing vigil over the entire city of Osgiliath surrounding it. For the life of her, she doesn't remember ordering a massive statue of herself. She might be vain, but she's not that vain. Of course, said culprit responsible is not hard to find, seeing that it is giving her doe-like eyes in front of Deliana as if her next words would mean the world for her. So do you like it? Asks Marcella, her round green eyes gleaming with excitement as she practically bounces on her high heels as she awaits Deliana's reply. So Dame tries to answer something, but apparently the sounds that come out of her mouth are simply unintelligible as her brain is still at the middle of processing what she is seeing right now. The cost alone of the materials for a statue like this must be massive. That is not counting the transportation fees, the labor fees, delivery fees, and the negations probably involved to deliver this much marble or Delianite for that matter. Thinking about it is daunting alone. There's also the small fact that Deliana has no idea how in the world did Marcella manage to keep this hid from her. The dame is meticulous enough when it comes to reviewing the details of this project of hers. Nothing much go past her, but this, she blinks as she stares at the helmeted face of the statue, looking terrifyingly accurate as her wish she's in armor. Gilia, the soft voice of Marcella, makes said Lady of Rivendell blink for the second time, as she turns at the young girl whose expression now contains a bit of worry. That decides it for Deliana. Despite the frustration levels inside her, she can never endure seeing Marcella with a sad face. That expression of hers has no place in her face, as long as she's in the territory of Rivendell. Gulping and forcing her throat to work, Deliana smiles softly at her, putting aside her chibi mental representation of anime, crying at probably the costs involved. It's lovely, Sella, thank you. Like a light switch, the face of Marcella shines once more as she hugs Deliana tightly, making the dame sigh softly as she pats the back of her friend. She ignores the rather inquisitive gazes of the people around them. It is well known, after all, that Marcella fosters under her. It would not be a far stretch to assume that they would be friends, right? She wonders how they would react if they know that she would not be adverse to a game of Ten Sultanas with Marcella once the girl is old enough. She mentally giggles as she can almost see and hear the outrage. My lady, the calm but professional voice of Draco, unfortunately puts a stop to the cute cuddle moment the two of them are sharing. Sighing, Deliana simply smiles at Marcella before disentangling from their embrace. She makes a mental note to review the costs of Marcella's little deviation and take into account those whom the Crown Princess has in her corner to order something without Deliana's knowing. Are they all here? Deliana asks, standing straight as two aides appear out of nowhere, removing the wrinkles from her attire caused by Marcella's hug. Draco simply nods, making Deliana take a deep breathe. The tourney is finally about to start. Stark delegation, north entrance of Osgiliath. Catelyn Starkney, Tully can almost feel her teeth grinding to dust as she sees the Grand White City, or Miracle City as it is called due to it being finished in 3 months' time. Only, due to the good relations with the Starks of Winterfell, the northern contingent are given free leave to use the roads of Rivendell to reach Osgiliath, with the promise of not stopping, instead of going around the territories of Rivendell using the King's Road, which is more muddy and a combination of mud, filth, and dirt. On the way here, she has seen the different projects of her bastard sister, the different homesteads managing the farms and poultry, the wide towns with every crafts available, almost resembling cities, patrols of blackguard marching down the paved stone roads with the adventurers running around doing quests, bounty hunters dragging a criminal or two to the nearest guard posts, and occasionally the bright ornate armored knights of the newly named Silver Order, riding along singing as they went. She has also never seen small folk so richly dressed, wandering around as they go along their business. Everyone in Rivendell seems rich, that the Northmen looked almost like paupers with their fur capes and leather attires. While the retinue of northern lords heap mountains upon mountains of praises to the well-taken-care lands of Rivendell, while at the same time marveling at everything that they are seeing, Catelyn feels otherwise, while internally she puts out a facade of neutrality as their guide leads them. Inside, it takes all of her willpower, not to foam at the mouth. Sure, part of her, like the northern lords, is impressed by the growth, wealth, and territory improvement of the Lady of Rivendell. She cannot get over the fact, though, that the bastard does not share it with her entire family. The very thought only fuels Catelyn's personal opinion that the bastard is seeking to supplant her brother. Imagine if all this would be under her brother's control. Not only will House Tully's tenuous control over the Riverlands be finally over, but it would also elevate them to the respects that the Lannisters and the Tyrells enjoy. Instead, the bastard is keeping it for herself and showing off her golden glory for everyone to see. Catelyn would not be surprised to hear that she would be boasting about how she is the better Tully instead of her brother. She can almost smell the evil bastard stench of hers, even from here, although word is she is at Osgiliath already. Never as Catelyn knows that she would hate someone more than the bastard of her husband, but here she is. Not only is the bastard reaching for heights not worthy of her station, but she also champions and elevates other bastards for that silver order of hers, giving them glory and honor which they should not have. It is an affront to everything the Seven is teaching. Still, Catelyn is here as a guest, and she can't do anything. She would not be silenced, though. She must need to talk to her father, brother, and sister about the hidden threat within their midst, and possibly re-end it. Her father legitimized the bastard, after all. He can always take it back. Worst comes to worst, she can always rely on Petyr's promise to get rid of the bastard personally, and be the divine justice behind the will of the gods. Private Solar, Osgiliath. I'm not wearing that. Oh, yes, you are. Will not. Oh, yes, you will. Try me. You will wear it, or so gods help me. I'll tell the Emperor of Yt you hated the gift. Myrcella will always have the highest respect for Deliana. That statement is true, and will remain true as far as Myrcella is concerned. As the sun rises on the sky, however, for the life of her, she can't help the feeling of frustration as she stares at a pouting Deliana, Tully, who is giving her the stink eye while looking mournfully at the armor currently lying on the chair, disassembled. Long story short, it is the personal gift of the Emperor of Yt, Phoenix armor, as he called it. It is the ceremonial attire of the female guards of Yt's most holy temple and cannot be worn by simply anyone. The Emperor, however, honors Deliana even more. Instead of being made of gold, the armor is made of Deliite bought and beaten, crafted personally by the royal blacksmiths of Yt. Its worth is more than a small nation combined. Deliana, however, is refusing to wear it. In a way, Myrcella understands her. Ever since her stay in Rivendell, Myrcella notices that Deliana always wear conservative clothes made usually for guys, though many appreciates it due to the attire hugging her body. On the rare occasion that Deliana wears a gown or a dress, it is because of an official sanction and very modest. The Phoenix armor, however, is anything but modest. Its upper portion is made up of interwoven scale plates of violet Delianite that covers the entirety of the torso and spreads to the wrist. It exposes, however, the chest with a very large V-cut that goes down to the middle of her cleavage area, showing off the body. Golden net-like pauldrons studded with 12 diamonds each attached to the shoulders. Violet-blue feathers made from crystallized beaten Delianite juts out from the side of the pauldrons, giving the shoulders an exotic but beautiful look. Also, to cover the modesty of the wearer, a little feathered Delianite, golden-colored neck guard surrounds the neck to the place where the Adam's apple of a boy might be found. While this hides her collarbone nicely, it gives even more emphasis to the V-cut at the chest area. A lapel of diamonds is connecting the middle of the cleavage area shown. Arm guards are also made up of feathered golden designs that connects to a violet glove studded with jewels. While the scale-like armor is beautiful and exotic looking, the back portion cannot be said otherwise. The entirety of the back of the scale armor is non-existing, exposing the entirety of the skin of the wearer. Sure, there are 5 lapels, beads of diamonds interconnecting to the front of the scale armor, hugging the armor to the body like strings. The fact remains, though, that the entirety of the back is skin naked. It goes down to the girdle at the waist that barely manages to hide the upper butt area, tied together by another diamond bead lapel. The girdle belt is made of fine leather. Diamonds, however, beaten in a starry shape, adorns it at every few centimeters. Connecting to the leather is a fine, transparent silk tunic of pale white pink. It is so soft and beautiful looking that Marcella would be, that her entire wardrobe put together would be its cost. More ornamental lapels made of Delionite also adorn it alongside with different precious stones. Below the girdle, the pants are made of skin-tight form, hugging leather mixed with Delionite, giving it an eerie sheen of dark violet. It is connected to Delionite boots beaten with a mix of gold and silver. Thankfully, the boots are not in high heels, else she might never have succeeded in making Deliana wear it. It is like its motif has a design of golden feathers. Lastly, atop is a sun circlet that falls to her brown, connected with two overlapping diamond lapels that bind together each side of her head, a double-winged headgear. A brown-gray shawl is the final motif that goes in a W design, though, more curvy, that hides everything of Deliana's face below the eyes. For more graphic sample, check the Nicara Bladpoint Cinematic 2022. The rogue thief there is the inspiration for this. All in all, the Phoenix Armor gift from the Emperor of UT is the most ornate, but also the most revealing thing that Marcella has the pleasure to see. Not saying that it's ugly, it's actually very beautiful. Do I really have to wear this? Deliana unhappily pouts, looking with trepidation at the armor set, sitting innocently at the bed. Unfortunately, yes, Lady Deliana, you know it is expected of you by the Emperor. This gift is so pricey and one that can only be given to the most trusted allies. It would be the paramount of disrespect if you do not wear it, reasons Marcella, though. Mentally, she disagrees. Even she would have serious second doubts wearing this. Fine, I'll wear the bloody thing, Deliana waves off in surrender. Yasmina, come and help me, for I think I will have an aneurysm trying to force myself wearing this if I do it myself. As Deliana's concubine strides forward to help her, Marcella can't help but let off a little giggle. Second-guessing or not, it is terribly amusing watching Deliana stand stiff as a board as Yasmina addresses her. Osgiliath, the Colosseum. Thousands upon thousands of people crowd the Colosseum proper as golden confetti and petals fall around them. The sound of drums is never-ending in tandem, giving the onlookers' blood a burning sensation as the long-awaited tourney finally starts. Hundreds of food carts go up and down the stone seats, pushing trolleys, selling candies, popcorn, and other more exotic things that are unique only to Rivendell under the careful eye of the Black Guard that is being deployed en masse for crowd control. Representatives from almost every house of Westeros is congregating here after all, and all their egos put together in this small arena is enough to fill Planetos as a whole. The giant Roman-style pillars around the Colosseum, 14 in all, are adorned with the finest livery and banners of Rivendell, each 100 meters large, flowing down, showing off the silver banner of blue and silver with a golden spear with wings. It is the first official banner of Rivendell and represents Deliana's slight deviation from House Tully. It is the middle of the Colosseum, though, that all eyes are staring at. Atop a raised balcony are 7 golden empty large chairs, with a larger chair made of white raised a little in front of them. A dozen or more silver chairs are placed behind the 7 chairs. Thin pillars of silver and gold are surrounding them, each with a small tree at its side. 7 young men dressed in white toga step forward, raising 7 horns, which they blow in a musical array that echo all around the Colosseum, silencing the chatting and excited crowd. As the silence descends into complete muteness, another person steps forward on the dais. This one dressed in pure white robes, with golden trimmings designed to look like a weirwood at each part of his robe. A large, ridiculous-looking rectangle hat sits atop his head. All in all, he looks like a high priest dressed for office, only more simple and ornate than the High Septon of the Faith can ever hope to be. His face is clean, and the magnificent sideburns looks freshly razored. His once bushy beard is also tied in a ponytail that ends up looking like a unicorn horn. He stares in silence at the gathered crowd before raising both hands atop the air. Praise be the old gods for this wonderful day. Aspar, Marcus, Senecal of Rivendell, welcome you all. His booming voice vibrates into the entirety of Rivendell, making the very marble tremble. If not for the fact that 99% of the population is totally surprised by the fact that his voice can be heard from one end of the Colosseum to the other, they might have frowned at the praise to the old gods instead of the 7. As it is, like the sheeple they are, they followed as specifically chosen stooges planted before on the crowd cheer. Soon the entire stadium is cheering, drowning the next few words of Marcus. He has to raise his hand for the trumpets on another blast of silence to make the crowd go silent. Before we start, let us introduce our esteemed guests who made the way to visit us all here today. He booms once more, ending with the sound of trumpets. Let us welcome them, the 7 great lords of the 7 kingdoms. The crowd cheers wildly as 8 groups are shown slowly ascending the stairs to the raised platform. To the proud rulers of the north, the wolves who face the ice and cold without fear and prevents the wildlings from overrunning us all, Lord Eddard Stark and House Stark. The first of the climbers waved as the glass spotlights reflect towards the fur, wearing men who looks tall and proud, but terribly out of place, as couriers lead him to seat at one of the 7 thrones, while his family sits behind him. For the powerful lions of the West, whose richness remained unrivaled throughout the centuries, whose wit and cunning ensured their mighty rule remained on the rock, Tywin Lannister and House Lannister. Hear me roar. The lick spittles down at the crowd, roars as the red-armored old lion finishes the trek of the stairs, not showing his old age as he does not lack even for breathe despite the long trek. The Lion of the Rock, compared to his northern counterpart, is obviously dressed to the nines. His doublet is adorned with bits and bits of Deleonite pieces, finely crafted to suit his personality. A sash of velvet is also clinging to his person from right shoulder to left hip. His thinning hair and bald head is well polished, and his beard is immaculate. Behind him is Kevin, with Lancel and his brothers dressed only a little lesser than Tywin. A little more after them is Tyrion, also in rich man clothes, though looking undignified as he is forced to crawl on some parts of the stairs. All in all, the Lannisters showed every bit of their personality in their entrance. Rich, proud, and strong. For the birds of prey and those that call the Ari their home, the realm where knights are blooded and tested, the ones whose honor rise to the skies, representing House Uraden, Lord Jon Rice with his family. The proud knight, along with his family, waves to the cheering of the crowd as they took their seat. Unlike the proud lions of the Rock, the Knights of the Bronze Gate are wearing simple plated, unadorned armor. Despite their sudden influx of gold, the Knights of the Vale are more akin to the Northerners, practical and martial. For the rulers of the Southlands whose fields grow evermore. For the Rosus whose thorns are likely to draw blood as their petals or Ekentai inspire beauty. Let us welcome Mace Tyrell with his family. Unlike the other lords before, House Tyrell appears different. Instead of walking, they are being carried in a palanquin by servants. Its fancy chubby lord steps out, looking fresh and none the worse for wear, with a jerkin of gold, with an undershirt of green. Behind him steps off his grandmother, his children Loras, Garland, and Willis, with little Margaery, who all wave to the crowd before also taking the air-proffered seats. For the rulers of the sands whose deserts remain unconquered, whose martial prowess even the dragons cannot overcome. Join me on welcoming the sharp-fanged rulers of Dorne to the south. Prince Doran Martell with his family. The applause from the crowd is more muted this time, within good reason. Dorne, after all, did not make any major waves during the events in these past few months, or years, for that matter. Many of the new citizens of the Rivendell territories don't have an opinion on them yet, and are more reserved until they see more. That doesn't mean that Oberyn, who prefers to walk instead of joining a palanquin with his brother, lessens his jovial manner. With a twirl and a wish, he jumps out and begins waving to the crowd as if he is the very important person in here today. Not a second after, his paramour, nieces, and children also joined him as they helped a sickly-looking Doran to his chair. For the lords of the Riverlands, who endures on their posts as the very rivers that they call their home, Lord Hoster Tully with his family. With a bright wave and a smile, the former sickly-looking lord of House Tully are looking spry in his doublet of dark red and green with silver. At his side is his brother, Brynden Tully, dressed as a knight, of course, with Edmure looking a bit tired from the stairs, but still smiling at the jubilation of the onlookers. The cheers are quite loud this time, and understandably, a lot of the crowd are actually from the Riverlands, and consider the Tullys their lord paramounts. To the Lords of the Storm, whose strength and power can be comparable to the very seas itself, let us welcome Prince Renly Baratheon with Prince Stannis and his family. The cheer from the audience this time is a little bit louder as the immaculate, garish, and handsome-looking prince appears almost swaddling in joy at the attention lavished at him. Behind him, though, is his complete opposite-looking taciturn Stannis, who looks like he is being forced to swallow an entire lemon whole. At his side are the Lady Syllis and the shawl-covered daughter of his, Shireen.
"Who's this? Who is this?" The seneschal Marcus gasps and exclaims dramatically,
before waving his arms open wide. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome King Robert Baratheon, first of his name, Lord of the Andals and the first men defender of the faith and protector of the realm. He finishes with a big boom as the trumpets sound epically again, and the confetti rain starts falling as the last figures climbing the stairs are finally seen. Unfortunately, the man that appears does not in any way fit to the rather dramatic entrance. Fat and big, he is sweating buckets in his black and gold modified doublet to fit his large frame. His face is red and chubby and puffing like a steam engine. Robert Baratheon, as proud as he is, refused the palanquin that would accommodate him and apparently tried to climb the stairs despite his heavy bulk, as a warrior should. What everybody sees as he waddles unsteadily on his feet is a tired-looking man who looks ready to fall down any second. Totally not impressive as the king of the Seven Kingdoms. Following him is his family. Cersei Lannister is a great beauty, none can argue that, in her red dress and golden corset. However, the permanent scowl at her face, Mars said, beauty, and gives her a snobbish look, as if someone placed shit below her nose. Following her is Crown Prince Joffrey, whose attire is a doublet of blazing red with golden lions all over. He too, despite the wonder on his face at seeing Aziliath, looks extremely worse for wear. His doublet clung to him in a completely greasy manner thanks to the sweat that accumulates, courtesy of the long climb at the stairs. All in all, the royal family does not look that inspiring when compared to someone like Renly or Tywin, for example, who are dressed to impress. Despite reclining on the provided throne for him, and looking not the least impressive like a lucky hog that managed to escape a pride of lions, Robert Baratheon successfully manages to plop his royal arse on the throne. His wife, however, has a tremendous scowl, seeing that her proffered seat as queen is a chair behind the throne, is instead of a throne beside her husband. To save face, though, and because of the stern glare of her father, she takes the seat with Joffrey at her side. The rest of the Kingsguard posted themselves beside the king in silence. Let us now listen for the song of victory, for the song of liberty and jubilation, and the song of our great city. Booms, Marcus, as the trumpeters sound again, followed by the heavy beating of the drums and the sound of thrums of instruments. Behold the glory, behold the wonder. What we have made shall be made torn asunder. Such vast achievements of fire and water beneath the gazes of the gods of the forests. Land of majesty, where the heavens lie. Jewel of history, shining by the Nile. Watch and be silent, you who are faithless chattel. We think of you as little more than cattle. This is our lands now, and we advise you to bow before the gods that defeated you. You have no power here. Defeat has its price. Some are favored by gods, some are sacrificed. Through the years, many backs have bent. This dream we build through blood that is spent. Look and be humbled. Learn what your place is. Losers of war, no matter what your land is. This is your position, your life suspended. Everything you are before has ended. OSG, wrath rises now. We have all control, from lands to the sea, to your very soul. Refer to Joseph King of Dreams Marketplace song. Suffice it to say that by the end of the booming music, many lords throughout the audience are almost frothing at the mouth. They are, after all, losers of the war of faith. The same cannot be said for the lords and ladies who belong to the winning side, Hoster, and the entirety of the Tullys of River Run, with the exception of a totally vexed Teelan Tully, who is gritting her teeth so hard that it's a miracle her molars do not crack, are preening like peacocks. Tywin Lannister is also sporting a small smile. The dour and taciturn Stannis Baratheon are smirking smugly at the Tyrells and Villemen, who are trying to make themselves as small as possible on their seats. Below, the Lords of the North are still happily chanting the song led by the Great John with a very bad sing-along echo voice. They are, after all, worshippers of the old gods and are going splendidly with the Blackwoods of Riverrun. The royal family also has a mixed reaction. The king himself is guffawing, patting his huge belly, terribly amused by the insult of the song to the losers of the War of Faith. The queen, however, looks like someone. The only reason that the guilty parties in the crowd do not stand and make an exit is because of the simple fact that they are ashamed. While the song mentioned the defeat of the faith, It is not, after all, making a specific on the lords that belong to the losing side. Thus, many of them has no wish of identifying themselves to everyone watching. There's also the small point that they already have spent many a coin to make it in this tourney. Now, let us come our hosts for this tourney. Let us welcome the Lady Deliana of Rivendell and Princess Myrcella Baratheon. Raised days above the royal platform. Are they all here? Asks Deliana, standing straight as two aides appear at her side, wiping the last of the bronze oil from the bare back part of her outfit. It is another gift from the Emperor of Yeti, and one that's supposed to give her skin a shiny gleam. The only reason that Deliana even entertains wearing this outfit is because it would give problems for her relationship with the Emperor of Yeti. A small part of her, and very vain, knows that the visitors would be expecting to see her, and she would not disappoint. Yes, my lady, everyone is already on their seats in the Colosseum. The royals and delegators are at the royal box, and the athletes and participants have all assembled in parade below, answers Yasmina. And the audience, asks Deliana as the aides finish wiping her back properly. All situated around the Colosseum. Aside from a few scuffles and angry protests thanks to the welcome song, there are no other incidents. Good, thank you for your good work, Yasmina. Please do bring my salutations to Castellan Amelia for her work also, Deliana says in acknowledgement with her concubine, who bows in respect before wordlessly heading out, leaving Deliana and Myrcella alone, as the aides also finish on Myrcella's attire. You look beautiful, Sella, comments Deliana as the Princess of Westeros steps in beside her. Unlike her, Myrcella wears a gold and black form-fitting dress that covers the entirety of her except her neck and face. The sigil of House Baratheon is stitched at the left of her shoulder on a black patch. Her hair is in a tidy bun instead of being let down. At her neck is a pendant made of all Dilianite with a gold lion at its end. It is a gift of Tywin Lannister to her and a reminder of her Lannister legacy. Deliana, however, raises an eyebrow as she espies Myrcella's hands. Black gloves? She asks, looking at the princess, who fidgets a little under her stare. Nervous? Something to ward it off a little. Myrcella answers with a small chuckle, rubbing her arms. I've looked outside, and there are so many people, Lady Deliana. Hey, I'm with you, okay? Deliana says, holding Myrcella's upper arms. Everything's gonna be fine. You're gonna do great. Just stay at my side at all times. Gulping, Myrcella just nods as Deliana tears her hands off. She is, however, surprised as Myrcella grabs one of her gloved hands, her soft, delicate fingers intertwining with Deliana's firm but slender ones. The dame blinks, looking at their connected hands, before turning her attention to the owner of said fingers grasping hers. Everyone will be watching Sella, she gently chides the princess, who nods her head at her words. I know, but please, I am afraid Delia, she replies timidly, making the Lady of Rivendell notice the lack of honorary title. Myrcella is sure nervous, and with good reason. 50,000 observers is no easy crowd. Very well, now come Sella, she smiles mischievously. Our fans are waiting, says the dame, earning her a small giggle from her friend, an unrecognized suitor. They step forward towards the opening large door, as their name is called. She doesn't forget to pick up the Valyrian spear, Aeglas, at the stand near the opening. This is now her moment, despite the rather emboldening outfit. She has to admire Myrcella as the young princess takes a deep breath before exhaling strongly. Gone immediately is the look of nervousness and uncertainty that she is sporting before. In fact, Myrcella looks storing, proud, poised, and regal, the very epitome of a royal princess. Her eyes betray her, though. Like Deliana, Elsa is a master when it comes to hiding her emotions, and despite her looks, that nervousness is still present. 50,000 souls needs to be impressed, and among those, quite a small percentage are royals and delegates of the Seven Kingdoms, each a might of their own. Nobles are quite easily offended by the slightest of things, and many have journeyed here expecting the tourney to be grand. For only a split second, Deliana wishes that she shouldn't have brought Rivendell to its current heights of glory, if only to avoid the nonsense ruckus that it might cause throughout the realm. It is only for a moment, though. Magic is might, wealth opens doors, and strength always leads to power. Through power, peace, and prosperity. Hand in hand, the two of them walks to the open archway of the raised dais, prepared specifically for this moment. Immediately, the bright sunlight blinds them for a second or two before their pupils finally adjusted, thanks to the transparent drapes hanging on the arches. The sound that meets them is like a wall, nearly making Deliana pause in her tracks at the cheers of 50,000 souls. She pauses, though, as she beholds also the first time the Grand Colosseum filled to the brink around the raised dais she and Marcella is standing on. Even though this is her idea in the first place, it is another thing to see it fully in the eyes. The Colosseum, after all, is a marvel of engineering, a combination of both magic and mundane effort. Gleaming white from the marble used to construct it, the Colosseum is beautiful, elegant, wide, very wide, that you can fit 2 full armies in battle here and still have room. The seats and stands of the spectators that come for the tourney are cheering for her and Marcella, mostly Marcella since many are still miffed thanks to the song before. Sparing a glance at her friend, Deliana notices that Marcella's face also shares the look of wonder that hers has as she marvels at the great engineering of man-made wonder come true. Knowing that now is a good time as any to finally start off the great tourney, Deliana raises her and Marcella's entwined hands in the air, earning more cheers and no small amount of gasps from the onlookers. Marcella looks at her questioningly, but Deliana just shrugs as she keeps their arms raised till the crowd hollering finally dies down, letting a little bit of her magic enter her throat in order for her to amplify her voice. Deliana speaks out loudly. "Thank you everyone for coming on this spectacular event. My name is Deliana Tully, Daemon Lady of Rivendell, and all its conquered territories. I am grateful that all of you have made the effort of making your way here on Osgiliath's great Colosseum. I do not want to waste any more of your time, so I will head straight to the point. This grand tourney is beholden in honor of the fallen heroes of Rivendell during the War of the Faith. May their souls rest on the afterlife and be honored among the heroes who died for their country. We will all mourn their deaths, but we will rejoice with their sacrifice. We remember the dead, but we fight for the living. Hail the victorious dead. Hail!" Thousands of voices respond to her speech, even those who were enemies during the War of the Faith. It is a good speech after all, nice and simple. Today, I welcome you all, so enjoy the feasting afterwards this ceremony. For those who wish to enter the events of the tourney, sign up on the stands and waste no more time. The administrators appointed by the Crown will assign the fights as to who goes to who. To the victor go the spoils. Now that is all, and therefore, I personally declare, let the grand tourney begin. Deliana ends with a shout, raising her spear to the air, making the entire Colosseum shake as the crowds cheer their approval to her speech. As said before, it is completely in their liking, brief, inspiring, and on point. It doesn't help that the person saying it is beautiful beyond compare in her outfit. Many for the first time ate seeing the Dame of Rivendell and are enchanted on the spot. Knights, nobles, and many more soon plan it in their hearts to win the tourney, if only to get an audience with her by crowning her their queen of love and beauty. As for Deliana, though, she nods at the drummers and singers prepared beforehand, who have been waiting for her signal at the edges of the Colosseum. Like a roaring tide, the sound of drums soon fill the air. Heavy beats soon roll around like thunder. We will rock you." The singers sing repeatedly, the heavy tone, making every soul stand in attention as the line repeats again and again. It is, after all, to their fancy, strong, loud, and powerful. Most importantly, it is new. Westerosi repertoire needs a lot of updating when it comes to songs. As for Deliana, she chooses this song for one reason. She likes it, specifically the heavy beat part. It is a trending on Earth before her untimely demise. She figures it would be a good starting song for the start of the tourney and would tickle the fancy of the Westerosi lords with the big, bad, powerful armies. As the song ends, Delian is prepared to go back in preparing to do public relations for the feast. Later, when another song starts. To her surprise, it does not come from the singers, but from the beautiful young woman standing at her side. The dame that flies to the stars crosses thousands of miles in the distance. The dame that travels the stars turns a single moment into eternity. Flowing so beloved, she foams through the cradle of life and death. The journey of 1,000 years of reincarnation. The hand and hand that are connected to seek each other. Exchanging hearts, blowing winds, is flying to a new world of color. The dame travels the world, with her golden spear. The light of the beginning, ever it sparkles. The light of the end, Dahlia. Nah. The dame will return with us. To the hourglass in which time overflows. Dahlia, nah. The flames of 1,000 souls fall smoothly and turn the stars. Flowing, flying. They are beautiful. And once again, in the cradle of life and reincarnation, they light softly. The song ends with a silence as everyone stares awestruck at the golden princess, who finishes with a soft smile. Her voice is like water flowing through rock, the melodies cutting and piercing through the heart and rooting on the soul that everyone is frozen where they are. Deliana herself is still as they are, as she stares at the source. Myrcella is smiling as a small ray of light from the sky shines on her. None of that awkwardness or nervousness she has before are present. She is at peace as she turns at her direction, giving her a beautiful smile. For Deliana, she has never looked as beautiful as she does now. Deliana knows many touching songs through her lifetime that touches many hearts. This the real deal, though, and it is 1,000 times more as Deliana can feel her very being squirming comfortably at the melody. A clap starts from the crowd, ironically coming from Tywin, and another, then another, before the entire Colosseum erupts into cheers, as everyone claps at the beautiful performance. As for Deliana, she does not care about them, as she looks at the beautiful young face of Myrcella. She is no longer the little princess that entered my door so many years ago. She simply thinks to herself as she smiles at her radiantly before raising their entwined hands to the air. The future is full of promise. Servant Ray's tower opposite of the royal balcony. A smirking Rhaenys giggles as she watches the smiling Deliana and Myrcella with intertwined hands. She is here at the servant tower with her guards. Deliana has specifically created this place so that she can have a bird's eye view of the Colosseum and not have to join the masses below. This way she can still be safe without exposing herself. She is smiling like raccoon, though, right now, at the sight of the two treasured people of her life. Myrcella, of course, as innocent as she is, has told her about her attraction to Deliana and her desire for them two to be betrothed to each other. Rhaenys, of course, fully supports it as far as she's concerned. Deliana would be good to Myrcella. They are, after all, connected to the hip already, and all that is needed would be to make it official and throw them naked together in the bed. Yet despite her joy, Rhaenys can't help but wonder what is the stinging feeling in her chest as she watches the two, with intertwined hands,